Good evening, everybody. It is 9:10 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time on Thursday, March 21st, 2024. My friends, you are listening to the RantCast Podcast, and we are live. Sorry about the lateness here. I had no idea what happened. We were just a little bit, I guess we just ran into some technical issues. I was dropping frames, some things were happening. Anyway, real quick, so I can bring Kurgan in here, just want to mention this, that the music that you're listening to here is brought to you by CyberSound Music, or CyberSound Music. All rights to that go to Aim to the Head. You can go ahead and look them up on youtube.com/cybersoundmusic. You're listening to two hosts here tonight. Going to be Josh and Kurgan. You can find me at twitch.tv/thestrangebus. That's twitch.tv/thestrangebus. And you can find Kurgan at twitch.tv/heroquestfans. That is twitch.tv/heroquestfans. If you want more information, you can find our plugins after the podcast. We have a very interesting one here for you today. Let me go ahead and bring Kurgan on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Whenever you're ready.
RantCast. How's it going?
I had my intro set up. I was ready. Plethora of issues.
Never update right before the stream. I've done that before myself, and it's like, what is happening? So yeah, let us know if the stream's all right. If you can see us, you can hear us. Well, you can't see me because my name is John Cena. Not really.
Our wonderful internet service providers striking again. I'm pretty sure is what this is.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole RantCast on that.
But doing a real quick sound check. It looks like I'm coming in through okay. Kurgan, you're coming in through okay. It looks like. Let me go ahead and just a tad. All right. Yeah. All right. Once again, you're listening to the RantCast Podcast, the only podcast where we're just going to shoot the shit and yell at each other all night. Today, we've got a pretty full docket. We're going to be talking a lot about layoffs, cancellations. There hasn't seemed to be enough of that lately. So just doesn't seem like a lot of big companies are getting their shit together, which is sad. A lot of sad things have been brought to light in the last just couple months. So this isn't anything really current event. It's nothing breaking news. You've probably heard about it recently since February, but a lot of it's just piling up now. So we're going to kind of touch on it. If Kurgan has any HeroQuest news he'd like to bring to attention, you've told me that there wasn't too much going on, so this is probably going to be a pop culture and video game cast today. So, but we can bring up if you guys have any HeroQuest
I feel
questions.
Like I monopolize the time.
Yeah. No.
Well, I feel like I monopolized it. Hey, I'm drinking the same thing as you.
Oh, all right. Not brought to you by
you got my brand.
It's non-sponsored tea.
Yeah. So non-sponsored generic tea. It's got the taste of generic. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, I just want to preempt anybody that wants to accuse me of saying this. HeroQuest is not canceled. As far as we know, they've suffered their layoffs already, and they're still going. So
okay, you've mentioned this quite a few times. Have you given off the misconception that HeroQuest was canceled?
Apparently, yes. I am the source of many rumors that HeroQuest was canceled, and it's not true. So I disavow and disregard those statements.
I think we brought it up a couple of rantcasts ago that like we might have been afraid that it was canceled. So
Twitch having layoffs. I shouldn't joke about that.
Actually, they did. So we'll get to that.
Okay.
A lot of places are laying people off. So.
Oh shoot.
But
I'm and stare at the insensitive man. They used to say learn to code, but unfortunately, the industry we're talking about, it's not going to help you. If you already know
Well,
how to code,
we'll
you're
get
getting
we'll get
fired,
started
and it
introducing the
sucks.
topics, and while we do that here, I guess we'll both just kind of double check our our routers and modems and make sure everything's set. Um,
Yeah.
if you haven't
Oh, it says
already.
excellent now. It says excellent.
Oh, brilliant, bloody brilliant. All right,
Excellent.
so here at episode 33, like I said, we're gonna be talking about layoffs and cancellations. Um, a lot of big companies here that have kind of been giving people the
Ribby's
shaft.
here.
Hey, Ribby, welcome in. Uh, before we officially get started, we'll kind of do some catching up here. How have you been, Kurgan? How you doing?
I've been doing well. I've been keeping busy and been playing some Call of Duty World at War. Uh, some well, I was gonna say a trip down memory lane, but not really because it's a game that I didn't really play back in the day.
Now, that's a
But a lot
game
of
I
people
have
still
not
play it,
heard
and
in
it's
a long time. A long time.
a long time. Well, it's funny though. I mean, I know it's subjective, but if you go and like people's lists ranked like best to worst of all the Call of Duty games, it's like worst Call of Duty World War II, best Call of Duty World at War.
Yeah, because they were just trying
And
to
I think it's
cash in on
mainly
it.
because of the
Because
microtransactions. Yeah,
yeah, and
man,
that's what
I
I'm saying.
remember
It's
that
like,
part in World War II where they had the loot boxes and the
you
custom
know,
pistol grips that you had to gamble for.
it's amazing how like a
It's like,
decent story and some really good voice acting and like all that stuff, it changes how people play a video game. A video game actually has to be good for people to play it. Who would have thought? Like, you know,
shocking.
I just you know it
Well,
really gets into me. Like, I'm really sick and
if
tired of
you're
people who don't play
if
video
you're if
games
you're a
making
little
our video
kid,
games.
yeah,
It's
wow,
it's it's gross.
that's
And
basically it right there. I was gonna say, if you're a kid and someone just hands you a game that's here,
oh
here's a game.
man,
But if
we're
you're a parent who's played games, you're like, no, no, that's crap, that's trash. Try this. Yeah, we're discombobulated. We're delayed. Well, woo!
you know I was just gonna bring up the fact that I think that I
Good
wanted
show.
to get us on like Spotify and stuff. I've been wanting to try to get this podcast on Spotify. It's like, it's always good to catch us up on YouTube, but what if you're traveling and stuff and you don't have YouTube Premium? You know, we should like move this podcast to
Be up for
broader
that.
horizons. So if you guys ever have Spotify or Amazon
Yeah.
Music, keep an eye out because we might be looking
You
towards
never
broadening the podcast
Spotify.
if we can ever get our shit
Yeah.
together.
I heard you like to sing in the opera.
Well, I was gonna use it because it was kind of nice, but like I guess you really have to customize it and finagle with it. I suppose
I,
I like just downloaded it. I
I
was
used
like,
to
oh, it's
love.
kind of nice to
Yeah, I
use.
used to
But
love opera.
well, there
Yep.
kind of goes my overhead because now I don't have anything to use for. Oh boy. Okay. Well,
What about good old Streamlabs?
no, I like we're back up. We're good to go. I just have to see if I can do this without like killing the stream. Um,
All right, gotta do my intro again.
if you want.
RantCast. Yeah, we're back on the RantCast. I'm Kurgan. He's Strange Bus. We're talking nonsense. It's great.
We
Glad
are
to have you
talking
here.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Didn't expect all the
Yep.
random ass issues, but I guess opening up 8 tabs in Opera like kills the stream. So I was even checking like the
Like
statistics and it wasn't using that much resources, but I guess Twitch does not like it, which is weird.
they're getting
Considering
scared. They're scared of us. Like we're getting too close to the truth. Yeah, they don't want to hear that truth. Yeah, dig it.
Hold on, I'm just bringing my tabs up in Firefox because I've had a million tabs open in Firefox and it works just fine. So we'll see if
Good old
that.
Firefox. Not endorsed or sponsored.
What's tonight's topics? Well, we're talking about layoffs and cancellations, but the first 22 minutes have been completely like weird ass troubleshooting because I guess my internet browser sucks the life out of my computer when I have more than 5 tabs open, even though I have like more than enough resources to handle that sort of thing. Just kills Twitch and Discord, but I fixed it. We
Got Joe Kosher
figured
here
it
tonight
out.
too. Oh yeah.
So I'm just moving my tabs over so that we can actually have I prepped the stream tonight with all sorts of cool stuff, and it kind of got ruined.
Somewhere there's a joke about like you need to take the wheel, like behind you, like take the wheel. No one's at the wheel.
So we'll see if this works now. Should work. Should work now.
Am I still a little bit lagged?
Oh yeah, you are. A little bit. We're losing. I'm losing stuff now. Great. Okay. Okay, that's it. I guess I'll just switch over. We'll just do it now. All right. I guess we'll go.
Do it
We'll
live.
start. We'll just start. Yeah, we'll just start by doing it live because asking people to wait this long is ridiculous. Anyway, thank you all for your patience and the understanding. Like I said, don't know why it's killing everything, but I fixed it. So, but yeah, it seems like everything that's been going on lately for the last couple of months, we have noticed a lot of layoffs in the gaming industry. So we're going to be starting with the gaming industry and stuff going on with layoffs and cancellations. So we'll be starting with Warner Brothers and Rooster Teeth. So let me go ahead and I'll bring that up here now. So Rooster Teeth was recently shut down due to the massive amount of budget cuts and I guess I don't even know what to call it. Screwing around that was done by Warner Brothers recently. So Warner Brothers has had a weird track record of doing weird shit the past year. If you notice, they're the people who are behind. They were the group that was behind Multiverses, which was that free to play, like kind of Super Smash Bros. Game where it pit like all these WB characters against each other.
Yeah, I
And
remember when we talked about
it
that.
lasted 2 seasons, had microtransactions into them. There were people who invested money and stuff into it. And then all of a sudden, around March of last year, they ripped it completely off the server and said, "Thanks for playing the beta. It will be back."
Thanks for the money, suckers.
And people were like, "What the hell?" Nobody established that this was a beta. It was released like an actual video game.
Yeah, I thought.
Nothing was said. So the previous Multiverses was released and made in Unreal 4. This one is made in Unreal 5. I did have a I guess a logo and thing for it, but like I said, we've had technical issues. So, and due to that, it will be re-releasing as of May 28th, 2024. But I'm guessing with all the game cancellations and delistings, because of right now, Warner Brothers is delisting 61 games off Steam. All of them mostly to be Adult Swim games. So if you liked Rick and Morty or any of the like weird games that Adult Swim likes to release to kind of help out small indie devs or anything like that, most of them are going to be gone um, off Steam as of, I guess, the next month or so. So they will be delisted. So I'll be surprised if they even like plan to release multiverses. But by the way, our connection is bad on Discord again.
Yep. Ah, darn it. I was gonna say that's the weakness of
Here
not
I
having
thought it was
physical
my
media, but
here
yeah.
it was. I thought it was my tabs, but like I said, we'll just play it through and see what's going on.
I thought my jokes were bad.
As far as Rooster Teeth is concerned, yes, they are shut down. Their podcast, The Roost, is still up for now.
Yep.
But this all looks to be a ploy from WB, as WB owns Rooster Teeth. So, the from what I can tell you here, there is a article from their main website that just tells people, dear community, they're letting them know that they had an all hands meeting, and then they were shutting down. So it really kind of sucks because Rooster Teeth has been around for what, 2 decades now. So for everybody, for all small and like devs, people who feel like you can't really do this on your own, this is what happens when you join a large corporate conglomerate. Doesn't matter how long it is or how short your lifespan is as a company, you eventually get devoured and just spit out. So, and nothing lasts forever, right?
You're
Nothing
getting
really.
really choppy there.
Dude, there's nothing I can do about it right now because
Don't
I've
last
done
forever.
everything on my end. So if we can't, as long as can you pull up the stream? Can you hear me? Can people hear me on the stream? Just fine. Because if it's just us on Discord, then we'll just have to power through it. Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
Ah, yeah, he's saying interesting.
Yeah.
So we hear ourselves distorted on Discord, but you guys hear us fine
Well,
on Twitch.
so
That's cool.
are you having any issues on your end from your internet provider, Kurgan? We have the same internet provider, if I remember right.
No.
Okay, because like I said, I'm
No.
not having any issues. And that's why I did that whole restart and everything like that. Everything's coming up
Yeah,
just fine
you
for
sound good
me.
now. You sound good now.
But
We'll just
to me,
power through.
it just comes down as, you know, as like this was just like their final, like the final nail in the coffin, right? They relied on a bigger company to kind of help them through things, and that bigger company kind of just failed. So so I thought that too, Vert, but um, mine handles streaming and stuff really, really easy. And like I said, I thought it was Opera at first hogging resources, but it wasn't doing that either, especially since Opera GX allows you to customize that. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. Um, but and so this is what like really kind of like throws me for a loop is with I don't know if WB had a lot of layoffs recently. Um, because I've looked them up and it doesn't look like they've let go a lot of people. They just are shutting a lot of shit down. So they're just burning everything.
Ribby's comment there.
Public corporate business is bizarre. You have a company sell more product than any previous year, but if we're rid of the one fast enough, stock tanks out, the company gets slashed. It grew 18%, but only grew 14 times /30% of the company. Yeah. So, and I brought this up before in previous rantcasts. I think investors are probably the stupidest fucking thing on the planet as far as how we handle things in the game and entertainment industry, is because we no longer consider us to be the customer. Big businesses consider the investor as the customer because they're the one putting the hugest amount of money into the publisher. Um, and if they don't, then they lose that money or stock option, and then they tank. Then their company goes bankrupt, or they lose a lot of money. They also can lose their reputation, stuff like that, and really, it could be for almost no reason. Investors can change their minds at the drop of a hat. So it they don't even have to, like, it doesn't even have to be about the product anymore. It could just be the relationship between the company and the investor. And and that's what I'm saying, is like, when it comes to video games, I don't really feel like we need to have that much business in our entertainment, because it really fucking chokes the creativity when it comes to like how people make things. Like, and I'll get to that here in a little bit, because it kind of brings me to a next segment on how we really should focus on smaller projects and things that make money, rather than kind of fueling the fire for creativity and indie development, rather than these big fucking huge ass $100 million video games that are tanking because the bigger guys want live service shit in them and all that stuff. And then they just fucking tank because they have to be fixed during the release process. So, and that's what gets to me the most, is it's an awful fucking like circle. So give me 1 second, because I have to bring up these thumbnails manually now.
Get out the whiteboard and start drawing pictures.
Yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, to just bring up the last part of that topic here, Warner Bros. Looks like it's just kind of like it's just killing things all at once, like just burning things down. Doesn't really have like a care for what's going on, or just trying to save face. One of the two. Either way, they're not worried about us or the people that are working for them. I feel like they're more worried about their investors. So it's kind of one of those things we have to think about. In other news, let's go ahead and bring this bad boy up, because I always love to talk about Sony. Sony's had their heads in the sand recently, and I'll kind of start off like this. I've recently enjoyed. I used to be a big fan of the Sony product, especially the PlayStation, around the PlayStation 3 and 2 era. I have kind of lost that respect, not just for the fact that they've kind of gotten in their own like crappy business dealings, but just for the fact that since they started leading in a lot of electronic development, and not just consoles but other things, they've kind of gotten too big for their head. They're kind of just flaunting their dicks around. So what recently happened here with Sony is, I'll kind of explain as far as layoffs go. Sony has laid off 1,000 people as of October 2023, all the way to February 27th of this year, totaling up to just 900 this year alone. This includes their London studio, in which I can't remember his name. I didn't have a chance to look it up, but one of their execs did make a public statement about how great their London studio was doing. He publicly walked up to one of the leaders of their London studio, spent time with them, and publicly stated that they were doing a wonderful job, knowing, because he is higher up on that chart, knowing they were going to get fucking demolished the next day. And that's, I feel like from a company like this, it's been around as long as they have, I really feel like if, like, because we've talked about how layoffs aren't personal. Like when it came down to Avalon Hill and Hasbro, um, Amalgamash has mentioned this and stuff, like, we shouldn't be personal with a lot of this stuff. I feel like there is such a thing as corporate politeness. If you have to let people go,
Yeah.
if you have to cut costs, if you have to do something that's going to hurt people or put people out of their homes or make people destitute on a holiday, um, then you shouldn't be flaunting around making yourself look good in front of the people that are about to be um, broke or without a job. And especially when, if you think about it, it doesn't make you look good at all. It
Yeah, it makes it
makes you
look
look
like
like
you're
an
stabbing
asshole.
them in the back.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not just with them, but like just to the press and everything else, because then they're going to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you know? Like, you know, and you can lie out your teeth all you want, but like, what fucking higher up isn't going to know that? Unless you're that stupid, then you shouldn't, you shouldn't be that high up. And for anybody who wants to know, I will probably grab his name here before the end of the podcast. Um, but that it makes me sad because a lot of those people not only lost their jobs, their livelihoods, their passion. Because when you work for a company like that, it doesn't matter how long you've been working there. It's probably an exciting place to work at first. Um, Corporate doesn't give two shits about the labor force. How about Tyson firing its U.S. workforce in that small town to turn around and offer all those jobs to? Well, so not something I've researched, but I wouldn't be surprised that they were outsourcing their jobs or offering
Well,
jobs to people who didn't have uh, the legal rights to work here.
yeah,
So
not to get into the political thing, but yeah, they played it up as, look, we're doing all this stuff to help asylum seekers, aren't we great? And then meanwhile
yeah,
they fired a whole bunch of people to make room, or at least that's the way it appeared. So
um,
yeah,
and
they
that's
play
and
up the
then
virtue while they're getting ready to crush somebody.
it's another way to cut costs. And it brings me back to the saying is, once we get used to cutting costs this way, because we usually go from cutting costs simply to cutting costs in a dirty and um, kind of a dirty and cutthroat manner like this, and then it feels like it feels normal. But it's not just about feeling normal, it's the fact that when this no longer becomes effective, because prices are going to continue to get higher and things are going to continue to cost more, and labor is going to continue to rise, like how you make things. It's what what else are you going to cut? You know, we're getting to the point to where some
Yeah.
companies are considering just AIing most of their product, and like, not only is that
Well,
soulless, but
can I say something here?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, the first thing that pops into my head, and probably a lot of people's head, is, well, just cut the CEO's salary. I know that it's not as simple as just that, but that would actually do more, I think, for their image than just like the way they're doing it, which is, like you say, that cold-hearted kind of like, I'll play up the virtue and then stab my employees in the back. I mean, it wouldn't make up all the difference, but we have had examples of CEOs um, foregoing some of their bonuses or salary to try to help the company.
So not just the CEO, but we would
I mean, if
talk
you're
about
gonna
the
do
board of
something,
directors and all that stuff. Let's see.
yeah, any of the high-ranking people who make way more than the average employee.
So,
Yeah.
Sony CEO Kenshiro Yoshida's annual pay right now, as of 2020. Let's see what his net worth is right now. Total compensation, Mr. Yoshida, is $4,745,315. So, and I mean, like, I'm double checking that, fact checking that right now. But he gets paid in the
And I'm sure that's
millions.
not an easy job. Yeah, it's not an easy job, but that's a lot of
Uh,
money.
it's, I don't know. I wouldn't say it would be backbreaking, but it probably takes a brain, yes. Um,
Yeah. And they want to
so
attract a really good or a really ruthless
if
person with that kind of
it,
money.
if I mean, look, they're
That
not
position.
like, I guess they're probably not great people when it comes down to business. A lot of business dealings tend to be, um, blunt to the point. We're not shaking hands and giving each other hugs or anything like that. But the big thing is that, um, I feel when you're talking about people's salaries, I could probably look up their board and stuff like that and see estimated what they make. If you cut 25% on each, you could probably save face on a lot of that. It's the fact that these people have lifestyles, um, and there's
They'll make you
probably,
make the sacrifice, but they won't
yeah.
make the sacrifice.
Well, it's a lot easier to rehire once things get back up. It's a lot easier to do that than to continue cutting the CEO's salary down, because people are just going to keep saying that,
Well,
right? What I'm saying is,
yeah.
like, if you do a big cut and then bring him back up eventually, but the big thing is these are all temporary solutions. Businesses need to find a
Band-aid.
strategy for keeping themselves afloat while also trying to find a solution to the problem, instead of just cutting everything down and scamming their customer, which we're so used to. We don't really have another, like, option. It's like, it's so normal anymore. Who else? Actually, we'll read about this here first. We'll kind of go over about this. Sony did post a, kind of a thing here in their blog, difficult news about our workforce, and this was back on my birthday. Um, so
Happy
and
belated birthday.
and this kind of, well, thank you. This kind of gives, um, kind of a, an insight as once again of how businesses operate when shit goes down, like the talk, the talking points, the verbiage, stuff like that. So kind of read a little bit over, and like I said, I'm kind of grabbing from, like, official web pages for now, so that you have something to reference. But this is from Jim Ryan, President CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. And this is for Sony Interactive Entertainment, so we're talking about more like PlayStation, stuff like that. But the PlayStation community means everything to us. Felt it important to update you on a difficult day at our company. Made an extremely hard decision to announce our plan to commence a reduction of our overall headcount globally by about 8%, 900 people, subject to local law and consultation processes. Employees across the globe, including our studios, are impacted. These are incredibly talented people who have been part of our success, and we are very grateful for their contributions. However, the industry has changed immensely, and we need to future ready ourselves to set the business up for what lies ahead. We need to deliver on expectations from developers and gamers and continue to propel future technology in gaming. So we took a step back to ensure we are set up to continue bringing the best gaming experiences to the community. Below, I've shared a copy of the email I sent out to the company this morning to provide more context on our thinking. We deeply appreciate support and understanding from the PlayStation community, as these decisions are very difficult. Please rest assured that our plans for reorganizing and streamlining are so that we can continue to deliver the best gaming experiences possible. Welcome, Jacer. So he was transparent and let people know that they were laying off people, right? This makes it look like they did everything that they could, and this was the outcome that they were going to come to, right? And that they weren't doing anything behind anybody's back, and they were trying to be as transparent as possible. Impact will be for employees across all regions: Americas, EMEA, Japan, and APAC. And several studios were affected by this. But in the UK, it's proposed that PlayStation Studios London studio could close in its entirety. There will be reductions in Firesprite Studio, and there will be reductions in various functions in the SIE and in the UK. I just want to let people know right now that there are a bunch of ports being made to the PC right now. Horizon was just released. As of today, the new Horizon was released for PC. That was outsourced to a good company, by the way, to do the port. And they are doing the I can't remember what it's called. Oh, Ghost of Tsushima. So I can tell you, out of all the stupid decisions that PlayStation's made, I can tell you they're handling this with an organized effort. But anytime they use the words organizational restructuring or I don't know, big words like like talented people, or we want to bring the best experiences to you, it's all horseshit. So the only thing that I can say is that they were nice enough to give the letter. Feeling the pinch of sales normalizing after the huge surge during the pandemic. Yes and no. So, and I'm like I said, I'm right now just kind of releasing what's kind of going on as of right now. But like I said before, yes and no on that. What's kind of going on is, and this is what leads to the title of our podcast, is with a lot of big services like that'll lead us to our next segment, but I'll kind of get to it now. A lot of big companies are kind of went the last 10 years to live service titles, big live service titles. We spent a lot of money on this this plan that we wanted to follow from other companies. EA in particular was a big innovator to that. EA, Ubisoft, they wanted to believe in the live service plan. So, you know, when Assassin's Creed was big and all those other big video games were kind of coming into market, like the big open world games, they were trying to push to always online, even in your single player experiences. I remember like Assassin's Creed 2 was on PC, and they literally hooked it to Uplay. It was always online. People had to pirate a crack for it to get that to stop, because you couldn't pause it properly. If like the servers were overloaded, it would boot you out of the game and wouldn't save it. It was one of those things where it was such a new concept and they were not fully prepared for what was in store that it just fell apart. And now that's happening again, only financially. Not enough people are ready to support the live service bandwagon financially. Because with live service comes, like, you know, you've got your microtransactions, you've got servers that they have to maintain for games that are going to be as old as time, which is to me the biggest issue. I think one of their biggest reasons for live service games was they wanted a game to have a certain shelf life, and then they wanted to move on. Well, that didn't work. People flipped out. So, you know, yes, certain video games got smaller, but like I think for example, like The Division, a lot of people I think still play the original Division. And like, what are you gonna do when those games crap out? Like the servers go dead. I think you can play some of those games on their own, but it's amazing. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's one of those things like where the live service bandwagon was just it was a fool's errand, and now like with games being bigger and more complicated, which I can agree on, they are more complicated. They're implementing either live service garbage into them or some form of multiplayer jargon or whatever the fuck they want to put in there. Um, I feel like it's taken more of a financial toll because games do start to get more expensive to make. And we're not just talking about like your Red Dead or your Grand Theft Auto. I'm talking about like you know your Destinies or your uh, what was that fucking game that EA made that flopped so hard? Uh, I can't remember. It's the one where you can fly around. It's like but that was always online too, and it was it's gonna hit me, but there was a lot of
Can't think
EA
of it.
games that did. Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
The game where you fly around.
Like you like
It
got
wasn't
into like a suit.
Skylanders.
No, it's like you got into like a
No,
suit and like um. Hold on. I'm just looking it up now.
so they had all those microtransactions, and it wasn't enough to
Anthem,
keep these games
Anthem.
afloat.
Yes, Bohemians. Anthem. That's right. Anthem. You get your anthems. Like
Anthem.
not Halo because Halo was
Well, yeah,
successful.
I said suit Halo. No, no.
So I just once again
People are
having a
still playing Halo.
huge brain fart about it, but um, you get these huge AAA flops, and like I said, it's even if a game is mildly successful to the people, it's not successful enough to their investor, and they lose a fuck ton of money. So, um, I think now we're kind of hitting a video game crash. So now they're kind of just like cutting costs where they can. And I don't know if I brought it up already, but I really think um, that we need to focus on smaller titles. Like a lot of big indie studios now are doing games that are nice. They're replayable, they're decent, and they make money. Um, for example, I don't know if I consider it an indie title, but it is a smaller game. But Helldivers 2 took off. It's not a huge, massive game. It wasn't meant to be a huge, massive game, but it took off. Um, there are a couple of big like PlayStation games recently that took off, and they weren't meant to be huge blockbusters. They were given a budget. They worked with that budget. They made a fun title, and besides the fact that they had server issues, fuck, even Pal World for some weird reason. And like I said before, it's not even a weird reason. You gave people Pokemon and you gave people weapons and you gave people the ability to fly Pokemon in an open world. Something that no Pokemon game has truly ever done. Like takes them forever takes Game Freak forever to do because they are so like stuck up their own ass and worried about making money that they're not worried about providing the customer with what they want. They're worried about like dangling the the chicken leg at the end of the string and like making us chase it around. Like, oh, check out how cool this game is. Oh, we're almost there. So, like I said, some of my verbiage may be a little weird. It's late at night, so but the big thing is that um, if we make a simple game with and like not all of them are going to be blockbusters, but you make a simple game or a simple movie with some like simplistic values, most likely it'll hit people, like a good chunk of people. The big thing is that most big studios want it to hit everyone, and it's impossible nowadays. We've now hit that point because I can't remember. I think it was what Ribby was saying. when you have a sales goal that constantly every year needs to go up and up and up and up, and you've peaked, you can't go any higher. So when your investor's saying, well, you've reached this much money and your last title sold this many copies, we want you to sell twice as many as last time with your sequel or your next game. And let's say they want 12 million, but your game sells 7 million, it's still considered a success, a massive success, but to your investors, it was a flop. And like, that's awful. That's an awful mentality to have, because there's a lot of people that can barely get off the ground with their vision. So the bigger goal mentality is good to have for when you're climbing the ladder, or when you have a dream that you want to achieve. Yes, always keep going, always keep climbing up. When you've already reached your mega millions and you're living in your fun mansion, yes, you can have goals, but like, I feel like you don't really need like to have those unattainable goals. You can set a goal that's unreasonable, but I feel like when you set your entire company to have an unreasonable goal that you're never going to reach, it's you're setting yourself up for failure. And we're seeing it now, because like they can't keep doing it, because in order to keep those goals like what they're doing now, they have to cut everything. So what's the stupid rich toddler at the top of the ladder going to do? Instead of cutting his salary, or saying, well, maybe we should look at trying a different approach with the company, maybe being in the red this year and then seeing what happens next year. No, we're too afraid to go bankrupt or take a big risk and lose the company potentially. We're going to cut a whole bunch of people when it's completely unnecessary. Sony has been in business for a very long time. Probably been in worse situations than this. You know, and is probably cutting unnecessarily just because they saw a dip in the chart. So just needs to stay afloat. But yeah, I've been droning on, just droning on. Um, I apologize, but it's awful. It's just awful.
It's a little grim, but it's happening, and we got to talk about it. So
Yeah, it's one of the grim, because like I know that I'm growing up, I'm getting
do you
older.
think
Like I just
that
feel like I'm
in the
being
wake of
cynical.
all this,
What's that?
I'm still lagged again. Sorry. Do you think in the
Okay.
wake of all this, this will maybe open up opportunities for others to jump in, other upstart companies, or
Yeah,
is
like
it too late?
it's already kind of happening. And I think as far as like companies are already like working with publishers right now, like big publishers. But if you go onto Steam, you can see a lot of a lot of um, indie devs that are working really hard. The big thing is that they are sometimes lost in a sea of other random indie garbage. Shovelware is more prevalent than it was before. And what was it? There was a lady who recently released like some sort of potion. There's like a potions game that, it's very simplistic, very nice. But I guess like EA has released a whole bunch of games on Steam, and it just got mowed over by that. Thus, like pretty much negating her work. So, I mean, I feel like it's the same as it has been for the last like almost decade. the little guy ends up getting picked up by the big corporate conglomerate saying, "Oh yeah, we support small business here. Let us give you that loan, or let us do this for you," and then it ends up becoming like, a sell your soul ticket. Might seem good at first, might be a nice relationship, but then ends up turning really, really bad depending on like how well things go. Uh, the next topic that I've got going on as far as layoffs go, before trying to continue, is EA. So with Electronic Arts, and this isn't surprising everybody, but if anybody wants to know, 1,470 people were laid off as of March 29th, 2023 to February 28th of this year. This would be totaling about 800 people as of just this year alone. EA is cutting a lot of video games as well. The ones that I'm focused on mostly is the fact that Respawn Entertainment, the people who have made Titanfall and Titanfall 2, and those are, to me, that's like a smaller game that took off, because that was a very good game. It was a very popular game. It just wasn't like, it just didn't boom. It wasn't like booming or anything. When I say Titanfall 2, a lot of people remember it and they're like, yeah, it's a great game, but like, it's not something that a lot of people go back to. But if you've ever played it, you know how unique it was for the time period. And they were in the making of a Star Wars first-person shooter. I'm pretty sure it was almost completed in its development, or at least halfway through its development. That is officially canceled. No surprise. As if we'd ever get another great Star Wars game. But don't worry, everybody. EA is still focused on the next Jedi game. Because, Survivor turned out to be a great release. And they are still working on their Iron Man and Black Panther title. So we know where their priorities are. For more layoffs, we've got Microsoft at, and this one is from a undisclosed source, so take this for what you will, but you could confirm it if you want. Microsoft is at 1,900 layoffs as of January 25th of this year. Epic Games is also let go of 830 people as of September 28th, 2023. So that's a big one. Yeah. But we might have good voice now, Kurgan, if you want to hop in. It's just going back and forth. So.
Yeah, back and forth.
Back and forth. Yeah. So
5-second delay.
Kind of feel like for the last hour I've just been ranting to myself. It's very quiet in here. Very quiet.
I've been listening. I've been nodding, yelling an occasional amen at the screen.
Another big thing is, and I just remember this. This was the thing I forgot before we started the stream. Thank goodness I was able to remember. If you guys are familiar with emulation at all, in the ongoing battle with Nintendo, it seems that Nintendo's cracking down again. Nintendo kind of has these spurts where they'll get all like super duper evil, and they will attack people with, or they'll attack like emulator sites, or they'll threaten cease and desist, and then they'll just stop. I don't know if it's because they got something big going on or what with their new hardware, but as of recently, I think it's called Yushu, is the Switch emulator, which I think has more reason to be shut down. I'll kind of play devil's advocate. But Citra, which was also the 3DS emulator, Nintendo officially, I believe, put them through a lawsuit in which the company that ran those emulation sites, um, well, I think it was Yushu. Uh, yeah, they had like a Patreon or something like
First
that.
comment.
Yeah, I'm responding to it now, but like, in which they were making like 30,000 a month, but it's still not enough to like, because they settled for $2 million, and then officially shut their stuff down, saying like they don't support piracy. So Nintendo was threatening them for piracy, in which they did openly state that you could play the latest games on their Switch emulator, which for most emulators, um, we tend to bring this up, that you are using emulator for archival reasons. Um, I don't care what you do personally. I'm gonna be that one guy that says I don't care what you do. Just don't openly state it on the internet all the time, because that's what got these guys in trouble, I think. So, um, most people that, and this has been a known detail. Most people that are usually pulling these programs for free, or pulling free ROMs, or pirating, and that's because I was one of those guys, usually ends up buying the product afterwards. Um, and this has been stated before, as said by Gabe Newell, piracy is a service issue. Um, if we can't get the product, or the product is too hard to get, we will find it somewhere else. In which Nintendo tends to be really, really stingy about their retro games. And it's not like a lot of their old school systems are just hanging around anymore. This isn't like 2010 where I can just go out and buy myself another GameCube, or it's just one of those weird things. I've still got my 3DS somewhere in there. I've got my Game Boy hanging up off that package over there. But yep, and they shut down their old services, or their services to their old systems on purpose. They do a lot of that stuff. So, um, a lot of people. There was one guy who actually did buy everything on the, what was it, the Wii U store, like $2,000 worth and stuff, just to archive it. But and they do this for almost, I don't understand the reason, because usually if you're doing this for greedy purposes, then you'd resell it somewhere else. On the Switch, the only time you can find or get a hold of that stuff is if you pay their subscription fee, and you only get like 6 to 10% of their library. It's not like you can find this shit anywhere else. They just demolish this stuff. As in, like, do not play our old stuff. You just play. It's like the Disney mentality. Like, we're locking our old shit up. You can only play our new stuff now. Maybe someday we'll bring it back to you. So, and that shit never works. So
if you stay loyal to us long enough, maybe you'll get it back.
So I feel like shutting down Citra was unnecessary. But like, they didn't want to fight Nintendo, so they settled for $2 million, which I think is astronomically crazy, even for the Switch emulator guys. I don't mind emulation, even for the people who use it for the wrong reasons. Most of the time, it's not hurting anybody, because you're downloading old shit, stuff that can't be found, or most of the time, those people are trying to download something they can't find it at a mom and pop store, like your local game store. We have like old retro stores around here, and when I was collecting stuff, if I couldn't find it, I'd emulate it. So, but now retro stores have just gotten so crazy because of that fucking that game rating scam now, where they like rate your games based on condition, and like Yeah, it's like really stupid. So like all like a lot of classic games have like they've been trying to purposely spike up like retro games so they can make money. The moment you make money, whether it's emulator or hardware, they'll come after you. Yeah, but that's the thing is with Nintendo's classic stuff, it's nowhere to be found. And if you can find it, they're never gonna make money off of it because you're buying it from like a mom and pop store. Like if I go buy a GameCube from my retro store down the road, none of that's going to Nintendo. And that's what I'm saying is like they purposely try to get people from not playing those games. Like Dolphin's still around for an emulator, but like they just took down Citra, which was a 3DS emulator. Like 3DS has been discontinued. You can't fucking find any of those anywhere. Like I have mine, but I don't have any games for it anymore. And it's I hate the fact that those are old now. But yeah, it's just weird because like usually if they're like with Disney and stuff, the reason they were cease and desisting people from doing Star Wars fan games is because they were releasing the movies at the time and they were doing their own games and they wanted to make the money off those. And if you had somebody who was making something better or something for free, you would want to go and get the other one. So like Nintendo just doesn't do that. They just burn that shit down to the ground and then they tell you you can't play it. Like they did a contract with somebody like with an event. They have like a personal rules and regulations book like where you cannot play old Super Smash Bros games or something like that. I can't even remember what it is, but it's like something where like you can't play any of the old Smash Bros games at like their conventions. I don't know what it is. Like what is it with their like their hatred for their old stuff? But it's technically what made them. And like without it they wouldn't be as popular as they were. But whatever. Let's see. I think besides that, I think that's it. See, and I only had a power hour of ranting to do.
Yeah, see?
Oh,
Should let you do this more often.
you're still playing the old stuff, you aren't buying the new stuff. Okay, that makes sense, Joe. But most of the time, unless you're really like cutting corners or like you don't want to like you really don't want to buy stuff, like you're trying to save money, most of the time diehard fans will buy something. Like man, I wouldn't have bought Jedi Survivor if I didn't like Star Wars, and the game is a shit show performance wise. It's a great game story wise, but like I sat there and played through that
Then you
schlock.
lose your save at the end of the game.
Yeah, and like I played through that schlock trying to find the good in there because there was. So same thing for Battlefront. When Battlefront released, I bought 2 copies of that EA Battlefront game because there were people who wanted to play that with me. That was like the
Oh
worst
man, I'm so
decision I
sorry.
ever made. Yeah, dude. And I bought a physical copy and it didn't even come with a disc in it. It was just an empty case.
I remember that.
But like that doesn't mean I'm not playing the original Battlefront or I'm not like playing the older games. It's just the fact that like I still had hope for at one point in time. I'm still stuck on Age of Empires 2 and 3 and now 4. Oh wow. There you go. Original Warcraft. Oh boy. There you go. Those are great games.
Oh, I loved the original Warcraft. It basically fine works for me.
But yeah, I don't. I mean, that's half
Fine
the reason I'm
works
still
for me.
doing the Dark Forces. I think I'm still doing the Dark Forces remaster. It's because of the I still enjoy playing like the old Star Wars games. I just want there to be a nice new
I
one.
almost played through it all again because of that.
And I told myself I will not buy another Ubisoft game if it looks good, and then the Star Wars Outlaws game looks good and plays well. I'll probably end up buying it too. I'm just not buying it immediately. I'm gonna wait and see like how it plays first. So, because everybody's like, "Oh, it's open world. It's like Grand Theft Auto," and I'm like, come on, man. So, but yeah, so I'm I don't know if I'll be buying any more EA Star Wars nonsense, but at least not until I complete the Jedi Survivor game.
If you survive.
I would survive. I'll be okay.
As long as you know how to love, you know you'll be alive.
On my CD-ROM of X-Wing. Haven't gotten around to see if it'll load up on my new computer. Oh man, I don't even know if that will. I still got my X-Wing Alliance box. I'll never give that up for anything. Love that thing. GTA Coruscant. See, I want there to be a game that allows you to travel through a good chunk of the planets, and then they like do expansions where you can get they'll do more of the planets a little bit at a time, so you can visit. Like they can take their time making a game slowly over like a period of time. You can invest into it. I wouldn't mind investing in a game like that because like then you can buy pieces of it at your own time. It's like American Truck Simulator. Like those DLCs for that game are cheap, but they put work into their game. So, and if it's something like GTA, it'd be fun. It'd be real fun. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. You know, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. Last but not least, at least on my docket, is we have just a small thing to bring up. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we have a pretty influential man who had passed away not too long ago. So artist and influential writer Akira Toriyama passed away as of I believe it was the beginning of March. 68 years old. If you're not familiar with Akira Toriyama, I guess you could tell with the characters in the background, he was the creator of the Dragon Ball Z series, and the Dragon Ball Super series, as well as Dr. Slump. I believe there was like a Sand manga that I used to read that he did. I think a lot of his stuff was inspired Chrono Trigger, or he did the art for Chrono Trigger. I can't remember. But he was a very, very influential artist. And as even though I knew how influential he was, I didn't realize how big it was until after he died. Because I did a lot of reading up on him for like the longest time. I was like, wow, lots of stuff going on. But I thought I'd bring it up here now because it was a lots. It's kind of like I don't know if there's like an author or somebody, the guy in the background pretty much who did a lot of your stuff. Like you don't know who the guy behind the curtain is until like they're gone, or you actually do the reading and you know with Star Wars or something, like it's George Lucas because like you see him a lot of the time. You don't really see this guy unless like you look him up or um so rest in peace, and the world has lost another talented individual. But that's all I got today, Kurgan. I don't know about you, but and for anybody who has any questions or inputs on today's topic, major topic, feel free to hop in. So, especially about layoffs or cancellations, or if they have anything to add or input, I'd definitely like to hear it. Art also for Dragon Quest. Yes, indeed. I forgot about Dragon Quest. I was a huge fan of Dragon Quest. Loved me some Dragon Quest. Did you ever play those games, Kurgan?
Dragon Quest. What
Very
platform was it on?
tedious. Well, uh, really old PCs, or no, was it Nintendo? I can't remember. I played them on like when they were re-released, but I got into like what Dragon Quest 6, 7, and 8 after like those were more my time, I believe. I think that was Super Nintendo. I can't remember,
Sounds vaguely familiar.
but they were at like 11 by the time they got to Switch, I think.
No, I never played these. Yeah, I'm looking at the Super Nintendo games. I mean, the graphics look familiar, but then again, I mean, if you would have asked me what this was back in the day, I would have said, is it a Zelda game? Is it, I don't know what it is. But yeah, if you played that, I mean, it was obviously a long running series. So
Very
that was him too.
classic, very classic RPG. Just artwork, pretty much.
Oh, the
And you could
artwork,
tell the
yeah.
artwork was very reminiscent too.
Yeah, I
Look,
can see it. Yep, it's Goku.
it's Goku. Goku.
Yeah, I'm
Goku.
all messed up.
But yeah,
Dragon
so
Quest. Yeah, I was gonna say something cheesy like, "Oh, he's gone above Super Saiyan," but no, it's yeah, he had a bleeding on the brain. That doesn't sound good. But yeah, sad to hear that his life was cut short. He had so much more he would have done, I'm sure. And yeah,
it's more
salute
planned out.
to the man and to his fans that are mourning him now.
Ribby, you sound like you're deep in thought. Just every once in a while, I get hmms in chat.
Things that make you go,
Hmm.
Yeah, if my microphone wasn't so goofed up, I'd be talking more. But
Well, right now you're
yeah,
doing okay. So, like I said, you've been okay
yeah,
for a
it
little
just
while.
okay. Yeah, so Verg and well, I started doing a little bit of it, but then Verg really kind of took it to a whole nother level, trying to figure out those weird images that we're seeing for Jungles of Delthrak. Like first they were actually cutting out the little hands that you could see in the corners of the box, and they were running it through reverse image searches to try to find out like what it was. Like, did someone just fake this just to fool everybody, or what it was? And then he was taking like miniatures and putting the arms, like lining it up. And I think we pretty much figured out that it's probably a dwarf character of some kind. So this is again, we're playing that game where we, you take the background and you cut it out and you brighten it up, and you're like, wait, there's a clue here somewhere.
Indeed.
It'll probably all turn out to be wrong, but that's because we don't have much else to talk about. Sauced on bourbon again, he says. Can't
Came
think. Well,
unprepared for the RantCast. What's wrong with you?
oh man, they look like two different miniatures. Well, and they very could. Bohemius. I was gonna say, look, they very well could be. We had a nice discussion on HeroQuest fans about Jungles of Delthrak and all that speculation. Some people still don't believe it's real, but I think that's the minority. I think most people realize it's probably done, it's coming out, but the fact that Hasbro chopped off their basically media connection with the fans, that now we have to wait for stuff to come through conventions. Like that's pretty much what it's going to be. The next
Yep.
time is a big convention, they'll be just like, here it is, and we'll be like, oh, okay, I
No
guess we'll buy
fun.
this now.
No fun guessing anymore. No.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And
Hey,
I mean, real. I mean,
is it behind you?
he
Is it
loved
behind you? Is it hidden behind the curtain?
he loved playing games with us, and we loved playing along because it's like, okay, we can't tell you yet, but we can drop all these hints, keep the rabbit trail going, keep the breadcrumbs. And that's such a limited thing too, because 20 years from now, it's like nobody's going to remember that except us. It's like, It's kind of like when you start playing a game for the first time. Like when I started playing Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight online, and we were all learning the game. It's like, oh man, this force power is so awesome. I can just kill everybody with it. And somebody else is like, oh yeah. And like, whoa, I can counter it with this other thing. It's like, oh shoot, now what do we do? Like, oh, I can use this weapon. Oh, it's unstoppable. I figured out the strategy to beat it. And it's like this constant learning, and you're all learning together. But then of course, you can never do that again because you just do that once. Such a unique thing.
Buying 10 and scalping on eBay, pay for my trip. Oh god. We must ask
We must ask
confirmation.
confirmation.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. Pixie Games. We have to ask confirmation from Pixie Games if the image was created by them or part of a newsletter. Yeah. It's like, why did you take an AI generated image from Adobe's website of a temple with a jungle and use that as the cover? And why did you put seemingly random parts of gray figures in the corners? And it was pointed out to me that, oh, this is something Games Workshop does. They'll just show like a hammer or like a boot or a sword, and it's like, guess what the miniature is? And they slowly reveal more of it, and then you see it, and it's like, oh yeah, and people just freak out, and they just get super excited about the new miniature. I mean, maybe that was somebody's idea, or just a really, really clumsy attempt at doing a fake. It's like, what? What? You know what you're doing? And it's like
What?
we get that, and people thought that the eBay image of Against the Ogre Horde was fake. It's like, okay, you have like a perfect fake, and then you have like the clumsiest fake of all time, like, and it's supposedly the same people doing it. Really? And it's like, and you want to investigate this person? Good luck.
Good luck.
No, but I mean, the Against the Ogre Horde thing turned out to be 100% real, and I don't know. I just, with that stuff, I tend to take it. Yes, you want to take it with a grain of salt because you don't want to be fooled, but at the same time, there's no really there's nothing better right now. There's no alternative theory that's superior. The company could come out and just debunk it instantly if they wanted to, but they haven't. So whose fault is that? We're gonna wonder about it. Make them do it.
Make them pay.
Into the Northlands lands printouts. The thing about it is, Joe, they didn't do anything special with that. I mean, they didn't even use like high quality paper. All you got to do is just print it out and you've got exactly what people had at the convention. Like just because it was touched by the members of the team and it was sitting on an official rented, Gen Con table. It's just a piece of paper. The PDF is 100% the same as what you get.
It's a
I
great
mean, if it
time
was
to be a
autographed,
HeroQuest fan. Is it?
yeah, I would say so. It still is. The
Okay.
thing about it is if you predicate, I'm going to use this for a lot of fandom, and this is going to be counterintuitive to the whole industry, franchise model, everything. If you say it's only good to be a fan if there's constant new material coming out, then your days as a fan are numbered because none of these franchises last forever. They all crap
Oh
out
yeah.
eventually. They all end. So it's like, oh, it's like when Star Trek fans had nothing but like really terrible shows on TV. But just the fact that new Star Trek was coming out every week, now I can be proud to be a fan. It's like, what are you even talking about? Like, that to me is just more like just being in a cult as opposed to like, oh, I have quality stuff that I actually enjoy that I appreciate. But I mean, it's like Lord of the Rings fans. What have they done all these years? They
It's a
go back and they read Lord of the Rings again and they talk about how awesome it is. Like, that's all you
great
need. You
time
don't
to be in a
need,
cult.
oh, I've got to write like you need like 50 more books. Like, I feel like some media, some entertainment is such that you see it once and that's all you need. Like, you throw it away, you forget about it. It's just filler. But like the really good stuff, you go back through it a second time, not to get 100% completion, but just because you miss stuff, you really enjoy it. Maybe you take a break, you come back, you enjoy it again.
I mean,
Whereas some of this
technically,
stuff, yeah, I feel like you just leave it behind. You
Technically,
just never.
they might write fanfic.
Yeah, people write fanfic. There you go. HeroQuest. What do people do? They make their own quests. That's the whole point. But there's other people that are just like, oh man, there's got to be another expansion. Like I finished this one. Where's the next one? Yeah, that's a natural impulse, but eventually that stops. Like eventually you're going to have a HeroQuest store where every inch of the building is covered with like expansion boxes. Like that's what you're going to have to do because what you just keep, it's infinite. So someone wants to get into the hobby and it's like, oh, well, there's 55 expansions you got to buy. Otherwise, you just, you don't really understand the game. It's like they're going to be like, well, forget it. I'll just do something cheaper. So there's a limit to it. And I think the fact that HeroQuest burned so brightly and then it was gone, maybe that was actually a good thing because that allowed it to end on a high note and we could carry it forward. And then now they're back with a proper budget and all this stuff. But I guess it's not 100% because those last two quest packs, most people didn't get to play. But the ones that did saw the weaknesses that were in it. And the same thing could happen again. At some point, Hasbro is going to decide, you know what, HeroQuest is not profitable anymore. We're just going to stop making new stuff. And maybe they make a series of flops. And so our last memories of the game are going to be, man, it sure has gotten disappointing and crappy, and I don't like it anymore. Like so many franchises. Like that's been my fear since the beginning. Maybe it won't happen that way, but I don't know. It's good to be a HeroQuest fan because people are remembering again what it was like to enjoy that game and make content for it. They're introducing it to their kids, to their friends. It's bringing people together across the world. You had all these communities that were isolated from each other, people in the UK, people in Japan, people in um, Spain, Italy, the US, Canada, and we're all like coming back together as the game is getting released different places. Like, oh yeah, I remember this game. Yeah, let's play it again. Oh yeah, let's see what new stuff is added. That's great. But I don't think it's going to have to be based on new expansions coming out because for decades people kept it going. Yeah, it was smaller. It's like the 500 people playing Call of Duty World at War on Xbox right now. Like those people are having a great time and they don't need, a huge mega advertising campaign and, constant updates to like keep them going. They'll just do it on their own. And that's fine.
I mean,
Like
they might be
I don't
hacking. You
mind a
never know.
fandom that's smaller. Like yeah, well, a couple more. Yeah, a couple more. But I mean, like, is it better to be a Star Wars fan when like there's millions of people doing it, or when it's like tens of thousands of people doing it? Like when it's mainstream or when it's like an underground thing? It shouldn't really matter. Like if you like it, you like it, you enjoy it. I don't know. I mean, some fads come and go, right? People do it because everybody else is doing. Oh, everybody else is doing Star Wars. I should do some Star Wars so that I can hang out with everybody, and that's fun. Oh, they stopped doing it. Okay, well, I'll just do the next thing that everybody's doing. But if Star Wars is good and you like it, you just like it. You enjoy it. And yeah, it's easier when it's mainstream versus like yeah, you're trying to get your copy of Super Mario Brothers and it costs $1 million. It's like dang it, shouldn't have trusted that guy to grade it for me. But yeah, when it's mainstream, it's easy to get. Bohemia says, I love scavenger hunts, and I hope this is a real clue from Avalon Hill. Oh, talking about the box. Because to me, it's a genius way to keep the community engaged and talking about a subject. Yeah, if their strategy is we know a few hundred people on the HeroQuest fans Discord and on Reddit and on AshQuest on YouTube on Always Bored Never Boring, and those small little communities and the other ones that I didn't mention. If those people talking about it keeps it going and they don't have to spend money in advertising, sure. But how much are we really influencing the general public with that? Like, why are these guys talking about these minute details? Like, why are they so obsessed with this game? Is it really that good or are they just kind of weird? I mean, they could always see it that way. Joe Coder says, I find it ironic that the people who used to tease me for being into Star Wars back in the day are now just as big or bigger fans than I am now. See, you
Isn't
could
that
turn around
great?
and say,
Isn't
oh,
it fun?
told you. Isn't it awesome? Yeah. On the other hand, Star Wars has been mainstream for a long time. If that goes away and they stop being fans, be like, aha, see, you just did it because it was a trend. But yeah, maybe they just never gave it a chance, and now they see how you were right all along. Or they like the new Star Wars and their standards are really low. Like back when Star Wars was good, they didn't like it, but now that it's crappy, now that it sucks, it doesn't all suck, right?
Uh,
Would you say all Star Wars sucks now, or there's still some good to be found?
There's very, very little good Star Wars that's new.
Hmm.
As far as
There's
like
still good in it.
Star Wars in
Kathleen
general,
Kennedy
yeah,
hasn't driven it fully from.
it's just
I've
hard.
felt it. I've sensed it. Yeah. But I think Star Wars has slipped into that same mentality, and some fans have slipped into that same mentality of Star Trek fans. I've said this a million times, where it's like it's comforting to know that your franchise is still around and it's still popular and there's still stuff coming out regularly. But I think it's a kind of like a false and hollow comfort because it really isn't good. I mean, if you honestly look back at what came before, it's not as good as that. The quality has declined. And eventually it's going to do itself in. Like they're going to stop doing it. Either that or it has to get better. Either it has to get better or it's going to kill itself off. And then you're not going to have it. And so just having it to have it is not enough. Like you have to insist that it's quality. And I just watched a video. I want to say was it Robot Head? I think I shared it with you. Strange
Maybe.
Bus, but it was like talking about toxic fandom, and I know it's such a thing
Oh
done to
yeah.
death when it comes to Star Wars. But his take on it, I mean, he definitely took some shots. He took some heavy shots at fans, but he was saying how that sort of like blame it all on the fans kind of thing, like it's all their fault, is really misused by a lot of people. And people forget like what it was really like. I mean, it's, you create something, you put it out there, and then people react how they react. You can't control how they react to things. You can try, but it's not going to work. So, you do have some people that just kind of embrace it out of loyalty, you know. But I think you just have to be honest with yourself. I mean, if all the critics say the movie that you like sucks, but you love it and you've got reasons for that, then they can't stop you. You should be able to express yourself and say what you believe, and they can't shut you up, and vice versa. you know and if everybody's saying something's awesome but you hate it, it's like, well, you don't have to consume it. You vote with your wallet either way.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like,
But
so
if you've seen the good. Mhm.
I like I said, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like, I think
And we
that
got into all the stuff about Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best, and I don't know
well,
if people would take issue with some of the things he said, but I mean, he made a pretty good argument, I thought.
with with the fact that like as far as the fans go, I think it like I said, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, you know, there is such a thing as a toxic
Hmm.
fan base. I feel like some people like certain things the way they want them to be, and if that changes even a little bit, they get pissed off. It's um unfortunately it's just the way people are sometimes, right? Can't can't change it. And then there are some people that just don't want anything different from what they have. Like that's not a problem. You like the original Star Wars movies. There's not really anything different from that you particularly enjoy. Um, and
Hmm.
that's it. Like me, I grew up with the original trilogy. The prequels came into play, and I think really, to be honest, if the expanded universe didn't help with that, I'd probably be just the original three. But like I said, I had an entire universe open up to me with books, video games, comics, the chronology, like Um, and then TV and all that stuff came in later on, but like really it was my own imagination mixed with what I read on paper. So or what I played in a video game. And so like I said, the canon was that. That was it. And now it's like there's some people who not only grew up with that, but like that's what that was. And I feel it is a little bold for people to come in and say, well, that's not what it is anymore, and here you go.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's going to piss some people off, and it's going to cause some people to be a little upset, and it's going to cause some people to get a little ornery because, believe it or not, and I think this goes a little bit too far, but if it has done this for you, then I understand it, because how I view media and how other people view media is very different. Some people, it can save their life, it can be their only source of hope when they're in a dark place. It can be
Yeah.
something they hold on to for a long, 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 long time when they stop being kids and they start being adults. It's half the reason why we have a problem with influencers today because people tend to overlook how people are and what we envision them to be. So, I to me, it's a place to escape. It was a place to escape, and it was a it was a nice place to to be in. For when it was simple. Um, so I I think that when you take that and you do mainstream it, because not everything that's mainstream is bad, but the way Disney does it is they release things
Mhm.
in droves over and over and over again. And when I was younger, that was fun. The Marvel movies were fun. They were something to go in and go see a movie with
Yeah.
because I was 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. It was just me, my girlfriend, and that was it. We'd go and we'd watch a Marvel movie, leave, and it would be easily forgettable. And that was it. Um, Now
Sure.
there's fatigue because there's 23 of them, and it's one of those things where like you're picking your own section of Marvel to enjoy out of a huge library. And yeah, there's not comics. The comics aren't even, I mean, they are a thing, but like it's just it separates the fan base now because it's now the movies, the comics. There's different types of media, um, and with Star Wars, it's the same thing. It's did you have the original canon when everything was simple and to the point, or now are you in this weird canon where now they've rebuilt the storyline because they're trying to erase the old one, but not really because now they're taking things from the old one and putting it back into the new one because Disney can't make its mind up. It's like when you're a teenager and you wipe the board, like you spend like I don't know 2 days writing this huge story and you go, oh, this is a mess, and you just erase it, go back to the beginning, and then you kind of give up halfway through because you just spent all that time and effort writing a story, and then you just erased it and like started halfway over, and now you don't know what the fuck to do anymore. So I I feel like that's kind of what Star Wars is now. Is it's some like young adult that decided to erase the story partially and rewrite it, and then kind of just gave up halfway through because it they were in over their head. And
Yeah.
I
I want to say. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's fine. I'm just about done anyway. I was
Jumping.
just it's to me it was just escapist entertainment, and like yeah, I do get passionate about it sometimes, but yeah, I do believe it's a little bit of both. I believe a company can really fucking destroy things. Most companies now, because I don't really believe in a decent company anymore. Um, and on top of that, I also believe that we as people, because we've had people here in the chat say that like it's hard to fight to fight for what you believe in, and it's also we also complain a lot for like the weirdest stuff. So I feel like we sometimes can be the key to our own demise as well. So if we continue to buy the things that we hate, and if we continue to complain about the things that we hate, but we don't make any real change because it's the things that we hate but used to love are the only things that are available. I mean, we can't ask the person that feeds us to not give us slop if we continue eating the slop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, here's my polite cast. Here's what I want to do for somebody. The whole like, I think a lot of people would get me wrong and say, "Oh, you just think something that's new is automatically bad. Like any sequel, any remake is automatically crap." That's not how I feel. I have an automatic skepticism to that stuff now because I feel like I've been burned so many times, but I'll still give it a chance. It's just that I'm not going to like spend my money sight unseen. Like I'm going to check it out first. I'm going to get feedback from other people before I invest in something like that. But the experiment that I give is this. You watch some genre film, let's say, some new superhero movie comes out, you watched it in the theater, you thought it was the greatest thing ever. Okay, you calm down, you take a day to think about it, and then I'm going to show you the previous movie. You compare the two and say, is this new one really that much better than this one, or is it like, has it declined in quality? Not always, but a lot of times. Like, I'll give you an example. So this is how I fooled myself with it. I went to the theater when, do you remember this movie? It was Pacific Rim. What was it called? Can't remember the name of it. It was like Pacific Rim Insurrection or Pacific Rim Resurgence. Pacific Rim Resurgence, that's what it was. Saw it in the theater and was like, this is a pretty good film. I really enjoyed this. This was good. And I thought, I haven't seen the original Pacific Rim in a long time, in a number of years. So I got the DVD out and I watched it. And I was like, wait a minute. What I just watched in the theater was trash. This is way better. So in comparison, it's just that I had forgotten how much I had enjoyed the previous movie, and comparing it 1-to-1, it was like night and day, like not even close. And you could say, well, the new movie, the technology's improved because you see the huge, Jaegers, the big robot suits in the daytime, whereas in the original movie they had to like have it at night or they're in water, something is obscuring it to hide the flaws in the CGI. But the story was better, the characters were better, the action was better. It was just like all around just a much better film. Like all the things that you would like about the sequel were done better in the first one. And they also did some of the characters dirty. I mean, there's one character that she was built up in the first one, like, oh, she's going to be the next champion or whatever. And it's like, oh, and she gets killed off in a stupid way. Spoilers. So, but see, I didn't remember that part. I'm like, wait, is that a character that I'm supposed to know? But it had been so long. It's Pacific Rim is not a movie that I watched over and over and over again. But I mean, I just did that simple experiment. So I mean, some movies, yeah, if you are watching, we've talked about this with Star Wars. If you're watching, Obi-Wan Kenobi or The Acolyte or whatever, and you're going back to A New Hope, you're like, whoa, the cinematography is completely different. Or you're watching The Rings of Power and then you're watching, Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring. It's like, okay, the cinematography is completely different. Maybe you like the quick cutting better, you like the editing better. There's different things, but it's kind of like there's so many things that are similar in both of them. It's like, why would you prefer this one over that one? Just because it's newer? I mean, I know that there's some people that go to the movies because they want to see a certain celebrity on screen. They're like, oh man, Zendaya, she's awesome. It's like, do you care about Dune 2? Nah, I just want to see Zendaya. Like, okay, all right, more power to you, I guess. But it's like, I'm going to compare the new Dune to the old Dune, and I did like it, but in that case, it's just different. It's not necessarily better or worse. It does some things better, some things not as good. But that's the comparison that I do. I think some people just have a short memory. They're just in the moment. They're just in the now. whatever is out right now, that's the best one, and that's the best it can ever be. And then the next one comes out, oh, that's the best one, that's the best it can ever be, and they never go back. And then you get all these companies that, yeah, after you drag them kicking and screaming, to re-release their, virtual console or their Disney Vault or, their Disney Plus or whatever, they bring out the old stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, why is this stuff so awesome? Why aren't they making stuff like this anymore? Assuming they haven't edited it to crap. So I could go on and on about that, but I think the whole, I don't know, overgeneralization that fans are toxic, and yes, there are people that will just try to destroy each other online because they have a disagreement. But I think for most of us, it's a passionate thing, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we're both fans of the same thing. It's cool. You like Jar Jar and I don't like Jar Jar. Like, it's okay. It's going to be fine. We both like Star Wars.
Yeah, I can
But you
understand
get
where
some
you're
of
coming
these,
from.
yeah, but the point in the video I watched, the point that I agreed with was you get some people that just want to make a name for themselves by saying some controversial thing. You've got Star Wars comes out, and you've got to be the critic that's like, this is just a big dumb movie about explosions and it sucks and it's just man babies who like it, and you're going to trash it. But then when the fans say something about the movie, then you're going to say, oh, it's the fans' fault. It's like, no, you're the worst one. You're the one that's starting trouble, and you want to blame it on the people who liked it up until one moment, and they're like, well, this movie was kind of a misfire, or this character I didn't like very much. And it's like they're just always looking for a fight. They're looking for that, I don't know, that headline grabber, that clickbait. And I think there's a big difference between like toxic fans and like toxic critics, because there's some critics I like reading, but some of them just, I don't know. It's just they don't really have any consistency. It's just they just want to fight and they want to
You mean they
criticize
lie
and
through their teeth?
attack. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They lie for
So,
cash. Yeah.
so
And
like I
I'm a
said,
critic. I'm a critic of stuff.
I can get
So
where you
giving me
come
a bad
from,
name.
but I also feel like you're forgetting like a couple of genres of people in that topic. So one is children, and the other is
Mm-hmm.
teens, both of which segregate adults. And reason being is if I was talking to you and I'm like, I don't know, 16 years old and I like these movies,
Mm-hmm.
chances are I'm going to like the newer ones and enjoy the older ones, but dog you for liking the older ones because of how old the special effects are.
Yeah, but see,
Most
that's just plain
likely.
ignorance.
Okay,
So I
but
can
every
forgive those
but
people
every
for being
child is it.
ignorant.
Most children are ignorant, and that's how
Yeah,
this and that's where I don't know how many rantcasts
they
ago.
don't remain
Why
that way forever.
no, but how did you grow up with Star Wars, Kurgan? And that's what I'm saying is
How did
like
I grow up with it?
it's they don't care about us anymore. We're and once we're past
Oh, you mean
adulthood,
the content creators?
yeah, when a movie's released,
Yeah.
the toys don't get sold
Well, at a
for
certain point.
us. They get sold for, well, some do, but most of the merchandising
Yeah.
is for your
Hasbro Pulse
children.
beg to differ.
Okay, but once again,
Yeah, most of the stuff.
they don't look for the people who are going to sift and look through the product and want to know the nooks and crannies like we do. They want somebody who's just going to buy it. And like I said, you would know because you've lived through the 80s and 90s back during the marketing boom when, especially with like something like Godzilla and stuff when it released. That stuff wasn't released for adults when it first came out. Yes, it was a ploy to get the movie, but man, I don't know how many alien toys, uh, uh, what was it, Commando toys and shit that were released for kids. Stuff's released for kids to get asses into seats or to get merchandising rights up or to get money in your pocket. Um,
Yeah.
like
Well, and I suppose as a parent, you correct me if I'm wrong, you get stuff for your kids that you think sucks, but they want. And so you get it because that's what they want,
all the
right?
time.
You- So,
Bro, I
yeah.
wouldn't
So
have
that
Disney
that I can
Plus.
understand.
I wouldn't have Disney
Yeah.
Plus if my kids weren't around. I wouldn't have half the
Yeah.
stuff that like I would have. And that's the thing is
Sure.
I I'm I usually smart shop, but that's the big thing is if I was a businessman, which I have been at one point in time, you wouldn't be if I was working for Disney, you wouldn't be my clientele, my main clientele. You would be my clientele, but you wouldn't be my main clientele, especially for something like Star Wars, because one, you guys have already lived through the golden age of the Star Wars movies. Like me and you have both been through the remasters, the prequels, all that stuff. Okay? We're gonna have an opinion. Regardless. Most people are
But
gonna have an
you're
opinion.
but I'm not going to get you wrong here. You're saying teenagers. You're not saying kids though. Cuz our
Kids
kids
and
going to be watching The
kids
Acolyte.
kids and teenagers. Who
So our
knows?
kids
Were
are
you
watching
watching?
Andor, kids are
Were kids
watching
watching Alien back in the day in the 1980s? Because I know there were
Aliens. Heck yeah.
I know there were toys sold
RoboCop.
for them, and Rambo.
Yeah.
Like so, like
The Horse of Freedom.
once
Yep.
again, maybe not, but at the same time,
Like I won't let you watch the movie, but you can have the toy.
once again, there's enough Star Wars for anybody to even hell, there's even something called Young Jedi Adventures for toddlers. It's
Yep.
what I'm saying is
Yep.
we're not at the
There's
top of the
big-headed
list.
Han Solo.
Because they know
Well,
that. They know
well,
that you're gonna walk into a movie theater and you're going to not only be skeptical about it, but you may not be entirely engrossed in buying a t-shirt or wanting to support the product afterwards walking out. Somebody with a fresh mind, and I'm not saying that I'm not trying to come off insulting, but somebody with like dude, there was a lot of things as a teenager or a young adult that I enjoyed that not only not
oh,
my parents but my aunt and uncle hated or found super annoying. Why? Because it was altered from its original hell rock music, techno music, um, any form of original media. There was the remake for Evil Dead came out in 2013. I was 21. I enjoyed that movie. I came back and watched it recently. Did not enjoy that movie.
didn't age well. Yeah. Well,
And
some of
that
that's a matter of taste, and some of it is just some things are just less timeless. I mean, I went back and watched Looney Tunes, and most of it, I could appreciate it even more now than when I was a kid. But I loved it as a kid, but it was
I
for just totally different reasons.
I feel that when your time isn't as valuable, and
Hmm.
when you are open to a lot more stuff as a child or a young adult, you are susceptible to a lot more ploys in life, especially when you have not been constantly screwed over. And like I said, that doesn't go
Oh
for
yeah,
everybody, right?
yeah,
Or every child or whatever. It's it's just a true statement because there's a sucker born every day, and you have to learn to be suckered in order to realize when you are suckered.
yeah.
So I'm not saying that every piece of Star Wars media is bad. I didn't mind Kenobi. I didn't. There's a lot worse Star Wars out there right now, and but I feel that the stuff that's released now, like you said, isn't as timeless. It's not something I'm going to go back and rewatch. But I also don't go back and rewatch the original trilogy a lot either right now. My kids aren't huge fans, and that's where my time goes. Unfortunately, they're not. But
Mhm.
maybe my boys will be different. But that's the thing is you know
Well, but is this an excuse to say that, okay, I'll make entertainment for kids because they don't know anything, and that's an excuse not to make quality, and
no,
then
it's
they'll just
not.
outgrow it, and the next
It's
generation of kids will.
it's not. But it's what I'm saying is that when you're looking on the other side of that, because I bet you at one point in time when you were growing up, you liked things that your parents absolutely either hated or found unbearable. And what I'm saying is that pendulum swings both ways, right? Because I don't like a lot of the new stuff, and I probably wouldn't even if I was growing up, because it is trash. A lot of this stuff is trash. But
Mhm.
the big thing here
Yeah.
is that what I'm saying is that if you're looking at a business perspective, if they are just releasing schlock, we're not the target audience for said schlock. You know, and that's what I'm saying is it's
I think it's a mixed message because they Star Wars has really mature stuff in it and then really immature stuff in it. So is it, oh, okay, this is family time at the movies, or
Is there
I don't
ever
know.
been an
I felt like
R-rated
it
Star
was a
Wars
big
movie?
excuse for no,
Okay, most of it's
but they've all been
PG-13.
PG-13 after a certain
Yeah,
point.
you could take your
Yeah, it was
13-year-old to a Star
PG
Wars movie.
before. Yeah,
Like, look, man, I'm just giving you my view on it, coming from somebody who has a big family, right? Who now sees it from
no,
that
and
perspective. When you go
I'm
into a
glad to
Marvel
get that
movie,
perspective.
when you go into a
Yeah,
Marvel movie, who do you see going there? It's not about like it's either kids, it's either younger adults, or big families. It's that dad and that mom that walk in, they have the popcorn in hand, and the dad's like, I really want this to be over so I can go home because my kids are crawling all over
yeah,
me, and the kids are flipping out, and they just want to get through the movie because it's like a Friday night at the movies, right? That's but I'm not saying it's an excuse, man. I'm saying like it's a it's more of a ploy than anything else because we've lived enough to be smart to sift out the bullshit.
yeah,
And like I said, we can scream until our heads are blue that the shit isn't gonna work. But Johnny from down the street who's 16 years old isn't gonna give a flying crap unless like there are some that do. There are you get the ones that like actually look for proper entertainment. Like I said, when I was younger, I I kind of matured a little bit faster because I was watching like Gunsmoke and a lot of older stuff with my grandfather back in the day. So I kind of had a taste for older like media. So all the newer stuff stopped appealing to me. But and I'm not saying that all old media is good, but what I'm saying is, um, no, and I'm not saying that either. What
good. Yeah, I didn't think you were, but I
what
just wanted
I'm
to put it out
what
there.
I'm saying what I'm saying
Right.
is as a child you are open to just about anything, right?
Mm,
I enjoyed
yeah,
just about any Star Wars that came my way as a child, prequels or not.
I'd watch just about anything that was animated. I would watch it, even though there were some
What I'm saying
cartoons
is
that
that
annoyed
that's a factor, right? When you brought it
me.
up, you brought it up as like there's there's people who have the spirit to determine whether something's good or bad, and then there are people that just lie through their teeth, and then like they're so just using the fact that there's a toxic fan base out there is incorrect,
Toxic critics.
um, or it's not always the case. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is that I agree with you on that, but there's also other factors at play. We have the
Yeah,
fact that there's a lot of younger generation out there that isn't going to give a crap of what me or you think because they consider us embarrassing, and that like what we used to do back in the day isn't important to them. So they care more about their pride than what's in their wallet, right?
yeah, could be true.
Or there's going to be a
But I
younger
feel like
generation that's catered to Star Wars in a different way because
catered to. That's the key.
they're catered to merchandise, or they're catered to younger
Mhm.
forms of media, or you know they're catered to uh, by their parents who are blind, like faithfully blind to the whole series. That's what I'm saying is like you know those are the factors that I'm talking about, is that some people are just going to grow up liking it no matter what, or they're going to grow up liking it because as a kid they enjoyed it because they were open to it in any form of the word, right?
Sure.
Knowing what's good or
If I'm a
bad
little
is a lot different when you're 5 than when you're 30,
yeah,
40, or 50.
if I'm a little kid watching Teletubbies and I love it, I'm not going to be on the internet arguing with some grown up that it's a good show and he's telling me it's a bad show. Like, that's not going to happen.
Okay, but Teletubbies is suited for toddlers and only for toddlers.
Right.
Star Wars was
So
designed
it's maybe
after the prequels to be suited for a lot more than toddlers. It was suited
you
to
would
be for
say,
adults and younger adults. Hence the Jar Jar character.
yeah, but we're adults, aren't we?
Yeah, but what I don't
But you're
think
saying like
you're picking up what I'm
20.
putting. What
I
I'm
get
saying
most of what you're saying.
is
I
that
feel like
like
there's
they didn't make the Jar Jar plushies and the Watto doll and the big thing back in 1999 for my mom and my dad. They made them for me. They sold the movie for the kids back then, right?
right
The
because
merchandising
grown-ups
rights.
like yeah, grown-ups liked Roger Rabbit, but not because Roger Rabbit was annoying. It was the whole like idea of a dark world that had cartoon characters in it. So you take Roger Rabbit out of that and you turn him into a dinosaur and you've got Jar Jar Binks. He feels out of place in Star Wars. But yes, I
I'm
get
not
it.
saying that
Like
like you're
everybody was like,
constantly
why
or
is he
permanently
there?
ignored. I'm saying that like
He's there for kids to laugh at, but then you've got the surrounding movie.
the the show or the movies now are no longer like they're not just an adult like uh, they're not just made for adults. It's a thing that's catered to children as well. And if not just the movies, the TV show, the Clone Wars, there's an animated series. There's literally you turn around, man. There is a Star Wars for everyone, and that's what I'm saying is like it doesn't have to be the movies anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like I said,
if
we can talk about it till the
yeah,
cows come home. But like I said,
yeah,
Disney
it's
will
always
still
their
reel in
topic.
money somewhere from that because
Hmm.
kids don't have these
Well,
discussions.
they have their own discussions. Could Han Solo beat up Chewbacca? In a fair fight, that type of thing. I feel like old Star Wars, it was a movie for young people, let's say. But you also had Star Wars cartoons, you had Star Wars toys, you had Star Wars video games. So you had layers and layers
Mm.
of let's capture as many people as possible. You had novels, and yes, you had targeted stuff. So you had comic books, you had young adult novels, you just had regular novels, you had your more serious, hard edge stuff. So that sends the message that Star Wars is for everyone, but maybe not every piece of Star Wars is for everyone. So yeah, you cater to different groups. I think when we're talking about the quality of Star Wars as a franchise, I'm usually just talking about what's on the screen, the live action stuff. I'm not even talking about the
And
stuff
you
that's
said that that wouldn't
specifically
be
targeted at kids.
you said that wouldn't be suitable for
Yeah.
kids.
Wouldn't be? No, I
Yeah.
think kids could enjoy it. If you make it too adult, I suppose parents aren't going to let their kids watch it at a certain point. I'm not saying Star Wars has to be R-rated and have like gore and sex in it, and I won't watch it unless that happens. I think there's some people that believe that or want that, but I think it's just like saying, the old Star Wars had a lot of a broad range of appeal,
That
and why
I was
can't you
5
continue to do that?
when I
Yeah.
saw A New Hope and
I
the
was 6 when
re-release.
I saw Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so
Yeah.
once again,
Yeah.
these
But I didn't
these
I didn't stop watching it. I mean, I could have, like you, I could have gone back to it and been like, this thing I liked when I was a kid, it kind of sucks now, actually. I can't stand it. It's not aged well. So either I'm delusional or it still
no
has
no
appeal for me.
okay, but once again that's different because what I'm saying there are things that still hold up.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you a black and white statement, Kurgan. I'm making a statement that uh, when we go to say, like, when we go to either like blame a fan base or blame the quality of something, right?
Yeah. I
We
don't
can
blame the
do
fan
that.
base.
I mean, we can either say that the quality of something's bad, or the I guess, or there are fans that are bad, or there's something, or whatever. But what I'm saying is that there are other factors at play, right? It's more than just two sides to a coin.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I also think
Fair enough.
it is a little bit of both, because we have lived long
Yeah.
enough in a time period where this series has become so popular that it's recorded in history. And we did have a fan base that harassed George Lucas so bad he pretty much threw his hands up and said, "Fuck you guys." And like, that may not have been us, but like, there are like there just like with Lord of the Rings or anything else, there are going to be toxic people in something that they love, because
Yep.
that's all they've got.
No doubt.
um
Yeah. I think if you're a movie critic, it's going to be harder because it's your job to basically consume everything. And you're going to see the same stuff over and over. You're going to see the flaws. You're going to be so much more in tune to that kind of thing. It can make you jaded. And that's setting aside all the stuff about, access media and people like not giving honest reviews or giving clickbaity type stuff. But I think that's a different perspective
See, yeah, as far as
for
that goes,
be
I don't
like
even believe in a lot of critics anymore, because they usually they either phone
oh,
it in, or it's all
right.
faked.
I used
Like,
to enjoy Siskel and Ebert's shows because you had two guys. A lot of times they disagreed. They'd have a discussion, and yeah, it wouldn't cinch it for me one way or the other, but I would hear what they're saying and go, yeah, I wonder what I'll think about it when I go see this movie, or whatever. Or I watch a movie and it's like I hear him and it's like, nah, you guys totally didn't get it. Or, oh, that was a good point. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna
right.
watch it again and see if I see what you're saying. But it was like criticism as entertainment. Like
It's
not everybody could do what they did.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending the quality of the new stuff in that sense of form. I'm just saying, like, it's going to appeal to people. If it's not appealing to us, it's appealing to somebody else. And it doesn't have to be an
Oh yeah.
adult to be appealing. The reason they're able to keep making the stuff isn't just because there are big critics saying it's great. I mean, that helps. That gets people in seats. But like, the the big thing is because there are people who either aren't exposed to Star Wars yet, surprisingly, or there are children for the first time getting their first taste to something like that. And yes, there's really bad Star Wars out there that isn't going to be good for kids, like, even for kids. But like, I don't know, if somebody's watching like any of the TV shows, or like the Clone Wars, or any of the any sort of recent media, like,
Berg is a man after my own heart.
something's gonna latch on. But
Sorry to interrupt.
Bohemians asked me if I played
Like,
Ewok
yeah.
Hunt in Battlefront 2. I did, and it was freaky. If you're watching bad movies, less critical over
Enjoying
movies
them.
overall. Yeah,
I identify so much with that statement. I loved staying up watching midnight movies, and I knew they were bad. So see, that's the thing. It's like when I'm expecting to see something good, it's different than when I'm expecting to see something bad. Like, okay, Leonard Maltin's Video Movie Guide 1989, I think we had it in our house, and I read that thing almost cover to cover, like just these reviews of movies. And I would always zoom in on, yeah, you read the 5-star reviews. Oh, these are the classics, according to him, and what everyone should see. But he had the 5 stars, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he had half stars, and then he had Turkey. That was like 0 stars. And I would read those reviews because he was so snarky about it. I'm like, man, this sounds so hilarious. So bad it's good. I want to watch this. I want to watch Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. I want to watch, some of the more obscure Godzilla movies. And I watched them and I laughed and it was great. So you put yourself in the right mindset. Yeah, you can enjoy something. But I guess you become accustomed to a certain level of quality or experience, and you're expecting to experience something like that again, and you don't get it, it throws you off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose as long as Star Wars is selling, they're doing something right from a marketing standpoint. Great, more power to them.
I mean, they don't have to do anything
Um,
right. They just have to convince
and,
people to watch it. I
yeah,
mean, you sell
convince them to
snake oil
watch it.
all you want. It doesn't have to be healthy, but like you
No,
can still sell it. I mean,
I can still tell them it sucks.
so I what I'm saying is that like once again,
But me not
we've
liking your product doesn't make me toxic. Me toxic would be like, I
no,
don't know,
is that
I'm
what you're
just being
is that what
so
you've been
unreasonable.
thinking? Is that I'm calling you toxic over the
No,
fact
no,
that
no, no. You're
hmm,
not calling me toxic.
no,
I'm
because
I'm being unfair because I'm portraying it as too black and white. That there's other nuances in between. I get that part.
yeah,
To
because
me, the toxicity thing is, yeah, we're not talking about people making death threats or I don't know, people lying or people trying to just I don't know, just harass
personally,
other people because they don't agree
just for
because they have a
you,
different taste.
I just think
Yeah.
like you're like any other like Star Wars fan that just likes their Star Wars that they've had. You're really hard to convince otherwise that something's good because you'll try it once and be like, whatever. It's you've been like you said you've been disappointed too much. You had high expectations and now you don't have them anymore. And like I said, I can't
Yeah,
blame you for that.
that's
It's the
true.
same thing for certain video games now. Like I've gotten so disinterested. I don't even try them anymore. So the big thing is mud wrestle. Oh my
We're
god.
not going to wrestle on the
But
new RantCast.
but the
Free
big
that
thing here
TOS.
is that I don't. I kind of like I said I'm kind of the same way. I just have a broader. I just feel like I have a broader horizon, in that sense,
Yeah.
right?
When we
Like there,
find the new example of Star Wars that I like, you can be like, see, I knew this day would come.
like so far, I think the original trilogy is all you still like.
No, that's not true. I like episode 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I like the Jedi Knight series. I like some of the
Okay.
comics,
Movie wise,
movie wise. Yeah, I like episode 2 and 3, and I liked them back then, and I still like them now.
I remember I like gave you that list of the movies I had in order of
Yeah,
good to
my
bad.
ranking was like totally, totally wrong. It's like what? No way. I mean, I think I told you I'd watched episode 2 at least as much as I'd watched Empire Strikes Back, and I could admit from a dramatic like acting standpoint, Empire Strikes Back's way better than Attack of the Clones. But as far as like me, just popping that movie in and watching it and enjoying it, I love
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones almost as much. Like it's
See,
almost equal.
I loved Attack of the Clones when I was younger because the
And
love
people say it's the
story,
worst Star Wars movie.
it's not. It's the love story that gets you because like really it's so
It's cringe.
bad. It's so bad. Yeah,
It's
and
bad.
it kills the pacing of the movie. And like that's the that's the bad part. But when you're like 8 years old and love is simplistic and isn't like you don't understand it, like
Well,
that's really all the detail that you need. Like just some
yeah.
whiny ass kid talking about his feelings and then all of a sudden they kiss at the end. Like that's you know,
Yeah.
that's it.
It's funny. I never thought Luke was whiny or annoying when I was a kid, but later I laughed at how whiny and annoying
Exactly,
he is.
Joe.
But it's realistic. It's realistic because there are people like that. You know, you're young,
Yeah.
you're awkward, you don't quite know what you're doing. And same with romance. You know, there's people say all kinds of cringy stuff when they're in love or they think they're in love. You know, or
Yeah.
they're weird to each other or abusive to each other. So it's like compared to your great Hollywood romances, it's trash.
I was gonna
But
go to the
if you're
Tosche
trying to
station to
say,
pick up some power
yeah,
converters.
yeah, you can waste time with your friends when your chores are done.
I,
Ah, glowing.
I
Yeah,
feel like
people
I
that
feel
say
like back then
people
you would
that
have
say that
gotten
Luke is
your
a
ass kicked.
people that say it. Luke is a Gary Stew. Totally wrong. I mean, just count the number of times he gets his ass kicked like through the movies. I mean, it's not as bad as like Shinji and Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's over the top. But I mean, Luke definitely he had to earn his stripes.
Yep.
And
Looks like I'm
it's
never getting
still
out of
he
here.
yeah. But see, he's endearing in that way, and the way they tried to portray, and I think it was fairly successful. I mean, some people said, well, the only reason that you care about Hayden Christensen as Anakin and Natalie Portman as Padme is because they're good looking, you know, they're young, and that's supposed to like Romeo and Juliet, like that's supposed to cover over for the
So
fact that they just seem weird and dysfunctional. But
no.
it's like there's hope. It's like, Anakin is gonna mature. He's gonna like realize that Obi-Wan's trying to help him. He's gonna like become a good Jedi, and he's gonna be great. And he fails, and oh
Oh,
no, he
quite the
kills
opposite.
everybody, and it's
I
tragic. Tragic.
I actually
He
I
had
read the
potential,
book.
but he squandered it.
So
The
like
books
I
are good.
probably mentioned this before. I read the episode 2 book before I saw the movie, and those books released shortly right before the movie released. So reading the book, there was a little bit more detail to the romance. And once again, I was young enough to where like it wasn't like didn't really matter. It was just like when did the lightsabers come out? But like as I reread those
Oh,
books,
those
as I reread those
when you
books,
say the
like
lightsabers come out.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
okay. But the as I reread the 1, 2, and 3 books, like
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot more to that story and how Anakin develops as like a man, or and
Mm-hmm.
um his bond with his mom and stuff. Like I said, there is the
Yep.
first chapter in that book just describes how Shmi gets kidnapped by Tusken Raiders, which is not in the movie, and how
Mm-hmm.
Klieg loses his leg. So
Yeah, you just hear his side of it. That's it in the movie.
yeah, and
Well, yeah, I
it's
agree with you. I felt well, I didn't read those books before I saw the movies, but I read them after, and I thought, dang, why didn't they have this in the movie? Like especially for episode 1. Like I cared enough about trying to retrieve, more good from my experience of episode 1 that I sought out the novel and read it, and I was like,
see,
yeah,
I can't remember the first chapter, episode 1, but I know it was I know it didn't start off like the movie. I'm pretty sure.
yeah. It's been, I mean, I probably read it whenever it came out. Was it like it was the same year as the movie, so 99? That's probably when I read it.
Oh, and to respond to you, Joe, yeah, Jake Lloyd did get pretty rough. Although, um, he made good choices before he made bad choices. Like
Yeah.
he was still responding to fans. He was still going to conventions to help make him like help keep his money up, even though he did not like Star Wars anymore because of what it did to him. Um, like he was still going out there and being nice to people. I think it the stress got to him, which I'm not in his position, and um, some people just buckle under that pressure. But he had family, I believe, that were trying to find him help, and
Hmm.
he had, I don't know what his finances were, but with his royalties and stuff, I'm pretty sure. Like I feel like that was a family issue because I feel like they could have gotten him some help. Um, I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of one of those child actor situations where the parents weren't completely concerned until it was too late. And as he grew up, he just kind of lost it, and just fell into a dark place. I can't remember if
Hmm.
he's in jail still or not,
Um,
but
he was in uh, he was in a mental institution. I thought it was the
yeah, that's
last,
right.
or mental hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we don't lock people up in asylums anymore, like in back. Yeah, your
No,
treatment,
but yeah,
mental illness.
that's and it's yeah, it's really sad because like once again, you want to go back to toxic fan bases. He got bullied really hard because that movie flopped. Like it sold well, it was just it got a really bad and negative response. Him and Ahmed Best and like because like at the time we didn't care about the people behind it. We just didn't like the character or we didn't like the movie. And that reflects
Yeah.
on the actor and the actresses involved. And people don't think about that because most of the time they're just looking at the screen. Yes, he
Mhm.
was in that movie with Arnold Sinbad. You mean Jingle All the Way?
That's a classic.
Um, yeah.
It's
So
trouble time.
yeah,
Well,
he.
the video I sent you was taking issue with the idea that some people have that Jake Lloyd became mentally disturbed because of fans on the internet. Now, he does use like what critics said at the time and the difference in like what the internet was back in 99 versus now, and he does take like what things that his mom said.
Yeah,
So if you disagree with that, you could probably say, you know, and does that mean that like the kids at his school that made lightsaber noises whenever they saw him were they like doing good for him? No.
no,
But according to the mom, at least, she like kept him off of like the internet. He wasn't reading that stuff. So if he experienced any of that negativity because of episode 1, it was like long after that. And they had a family history of mental illness. Now, that doesn't mean that like his career was great or awesome.
look at
And
this
yeah, like
guy.
you say, there's all those issues with uh, child actors.
This
But
this this guy here. Yeah,
what guy?
no, and I look. Yeah, and I did my own digging on it, and like I said,
The
you're
Ahmed
right.
Best thing, I don't know as much about. I
So
mean,
like with
the
Jake Lloyd.
idea that he thought it was going to be a big deal, and it's like, oh, then his
Well,
career went nowhere after that.
no, it was
Uh,
the once
People
again. This
hated
is
Jar Jar.
this was a thing where like with Lloyd, it wasn't that Lloyd got lambasted on the internet. It was the fact that yes, he got poked fun at school, which um, I mean, I guess like any other like back then, being
Like
a
in high
nerd
school.
and stuff was like not it wasn't popular, and two, it's I don't know how harsh the bullying was, but yes, you're right. His mom did keep him off the internet, and they did try to. Another big thing was his career suddenly dropped because of that movie. Um,
Yeah, he was in like what one other production, I think,
yeah,
after episode 1, and that's it.
nobody would take
Which is
him
nothing
after
wrong
that.
with that. Well, yeah, that's the part I'm wondering about because there's nothing wrong with being a child actor and like not being an adult actor. Like who says that your whole life has to be that? But
Well,
if that's what he wanted and he was trying
look
to
at
do and they were shutting him
look at
down,
Macaulay Culkin though. I mean, less intensive probably with Lloyd's parents, but if you look at
he was in a couple
Macaulay,
couple movies as an adult.
if you look at Macaulay Culkin, like his parents pretty much ran his life as an actor. Like,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is like if you have parents who want you to succeed in that field, but it's not that they're not probably not caring for your best interests here in this case. But what I'm saying here is the fact that like he was probably young enough to not have to like he didn't have to deal with the nitty gritty details with his agent or anything like that. His parents probably did all that stuff, and
yeah.
you know,
So
it,
it's a combination of things.
and when you
It's
become the
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 the life
episode
the
one guy,
lifestyle, the parents.
yeah, it's like you get labeled in Hollywood, and it's hard to get out of it. That's why a lot of actors now they choose
Typecast.
a job while they're in the midst of another job if it's something
Yeah,
like Star Wars or something like that. Um, Oscar Isaac had a
yeah,
jump because he was already in other movies prior to this, but he was already working on shit while doing Star Wars. Because fuck if he
yeah.
was gonna be Poe Dameron or
I remember he was Saint Joseph in the Nativity story.
Oh
You ever
yeah,
saw that? That was the first movie I ever saw him in. It's like, yeah,
but like it's
he's
same
just
thing
a
with Mark
simple
Hamill, man.
carpenter.
Mark Hamill had a hell of a time getting acting anything besides voice acting
Yeah, because they couldn't
after
see
Star
him.
Wars.
They could just hear his weird voices and be like, "Oh yeah,
So that's why he went to voice acting, and
it's
after that he
Luke
was fine. But
Skywalker." Yeah,
I remember him being in like some Vietnam movie after Star Wars. But
he was in The Guyver. Remember The Guyver? Which
yeah, like
actually, there's a character who turns into a creature that looks kind of like Jar Jar in that one. It's weird.
but yeah.
Yeah,
So with Ahmed
not
Best,
a
it
great movie.
was they did hype him up on it. Like he got the audition, um, and around that time CGI wasn't like new, but I think the technology they were working on with the Industrial Light and Magic was different. So it was being
Fully
introduced as
animated
something like,
character.
yeah, it was like it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't brand spanking new, but they were doing something different with the technology. So they were introducing it as like revolutionary, and they were telling him that since he was doing
Ah,
this new creature, he was gonna be like, I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Lucas, but like could have been Rick or somebody was gonna say like, you're gonna pop because this is gonna be a whole new creature for Star Wars. You're gonna be
and the
introduced
merchandising.
into this movie for like, that's being returning after so many years. You know, all you gotta do is just do this, and then you're golden. So and he did his best. He had a great time, according to
No
what
pun
was said,
intended.
and um he he just got the full brunt of it because of after the movie after the movie reviews and everything like that. I think it was just the fact that he couldn't get anything either. He had a hard time getting uh, gigs and getting, you know, and I think he had a hard time getting into roles before episode one. It was kind of like one of those things where he was an actor clawing his way to the top or anywhere,
Uh,
and when he finally
this
got
was going
there,
to be a big
he got
break.
knocked down. Yeah, and like I said, that I don't know if it's the same now, but like back then, if you were known for something, it was really hard to get out. Like, and so especially for like bad movies, because he probably didn't have a lot on his resume. So having Jar Jar Binks on your resume when Jar Jar is probably the staple for hatred in that movie, like probably didn't do him any favors. And he got really close to like killing himself a couple times. Like
Yeah, I
he
heard about
attempted
that.
suicide, and like it was a very dark time for him. And like
Hmm.
he it was a very long dark time because he had that was not a rut that people got over. So um I didn't
It's not his
mind.
fault that the character sucked.
I didn't mind it. Like I said, there's a lot worse things in Star Wars now than Jar Jar Binks.
Well, now there is, yeah, yeah. But I mean,
So
I still don't blame for the most part, unless you're like a really big actor that like, chose it.
he's just an
I'm
annoying
if you
creature.
if
So
you're a if you have a crappy role in Star Wars, I'm not blaming that on you. I'm blaming that on your agent. I'm blaming it on the writer, all
well,
that
yeah,
stuff.
but like once again,
I mean,
they betray
even
and like
even actors who go online and like yell at people because you don't like their character, like I feel like that that's like not even necessarily their real voice. Like they're doing that
yeah.
because they have to
See,
protect
I don't
the thing
understand that.
that's buttering their bread, you
That
know.
stuff with like Kelly Marie Tran and uh, just a lot of the death threats with what's her face during Kenobi and stuff. Those were awful. And like same thing
Yeah.
here, like with like once again,
Their
I
character
didn't
still
I didn't
sucks
even
though.
mind Jar Jar because he didn't like he had like some screen time in episode one, but it was just he played the character he was supposed to play, which was the annoying creature.
He's
I
Roger
mean,
Rabbit.
yeah, so George Lucas just got a little bit too ambitious.
Yep. As big as Pocketbook was,
Yeah.
as good as Manners.
So
Yeah.
then I think because of his contract, he had to do the other two movies, and he got to sit in the back pretty much as Jar Jar was introduced as a senator's aide,
Yep.
which is really funny because
Hello, Felix.
yeah, which was really funny considering the fact that Gungans were introduced as a race anyway into the Star Wars universe, and they were fine. It was just how Jar Jar was introduced as the goofy,
Well,
like
Boss
bad
Nass
luck.
was pretty goofy too. But you could imagine. I mean, there's plenty of goofy people and positions of
See,
power, so you could always look at it like that.
Bohemians like Jar Jar. See, and I don't have a problem with that.
There,
Like I said, at least somebody was
see,
trying
but
when they made Jar Jar. They weren't like just putting shit on paper.
I'm
So,
gonna. Well, it's maybe controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So yeah, I didn't want Ahmed Best to kill himself. Obviously, I didn't want him to not get jobs, but his character still sucks, and I'm not gonna like say that I like Jar Jar when I don't, just because he went through that hardship. So sorry.
so, so that's I don't even know what to say there.
Cut-
Like,
But I mean, it's true, right? I mean,
well,
I can
yeah, but
dislike something even if
that's already been established. I feel like that's like you
yeah,
walking into the room when, and and saying, look here. I know we're having this
no,
conversation, but y'all aren't gonna make me like him, okay? And then you just walk back out. Like, bro,
I'm sure
I'm
he's
not
a fine human being. The
nobody's trying to
character,
convince
not so
you.
much.
I've always not
Okay.
minded Jar Jar. I never understood the pure hatred from him. He was ignorable, right? He was a character that could have been or been without in the like I can watch episode 1 and still make it through. Episode 2 is harder for me now because of that love scene because it halts the
He
movie
was
progression.
jarring.
But like
Well, it's
the
like poetry, it rhymes.
the sob story
Yeah.
wasn't played here on the
Well,
podcast for you to like Ahmed Best or Jar Jar.
Bohemius makes a point. Bohemius makes a point that he was. I see him as like a slapstick character, and there is slapstick in Star Wars. You see it with the droids in the first movie. You see it with um, creatures in the second movie. You see it with the Ewoks in the third movie. So it's always been there. The question is that like the high point of the movie or not? And that goes back to the point you were making about the little kids. They laugh at the cute little characters making
because
the little
because it
goofy
was catered.
antics.
The prequels were
Yeah.
catered. Well, the first one at least, how he was trying to get it to the direction he was
Mm-hmm.
going for at first was he was trying to cater to a younger audience, and
Right.
that's because he had the funds to do with what he wanted. So
Yeah.
now he was trying to do like the Disney method and introduce young or introduce more animated like pop out characters with like that funny slapstick humor, and he just could not do it.
Yeah.
And it's, to me episode 1 is just it's it's a walking movie. Like
Experimental.
it's like Lord of the Rings. You're just walking through it till you get to your destination. And it's, I don't
And you're
I
right
did
that there's worse stuff in Star Wars now than the worst parts of Episode One.
I don't think it should have gotten the amount of negativity that it did. And that's me now. Like me back then, I didn't even hear about it because I was so young,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But
Mm.
yeah, most people were super cool, like super like doped out because of the double bladed lightsaber and
Yeah.
the really
Everybody
cool
loved Darth Maul.
fight
The Darth
scene.
Maul figures sold out. You couldn't buy Darth Maul. You could buy
Yeah.
everything else, but you couldn't buy Darth Maul. It was sold
So,
out immediately.
but and that's what I'm saying is like me watching episode 1 as a 7-year old and then me watching it now completely different because like my imagination was way open back then. Like the world was there were possibilities that
When I
I
was
can't even think about then.
yeah,
Or
when I was a kid, I never saw the commercials for the Ewok teddy bears, and for the longest time, I thought that was just like a joke that didn't exist. Because here, tell me if you heard this one. Well, the Ewoks were made just to sell teddy bears to kids. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't remember anything about that. I mean, I watched the Star Wars Return of the Jedi Empire Strikes Back commercials on TV. Well, like probably not the earliest ones because I was too little, but
oh, dope,
I never saw that. But if you look online, you can find them. They did sell plush toys, which probably have fallen apart by now of the
right?
Ewoks for boys and girls. It's like, okay, great, great. That's awesome. And they did try to make Jar Jar more of a character. Like, I don't know, does he actually have more screen time than Wicket in Return of the Jedi? But he was a more fully formed character. So Lucas was trying to do something more with that. But I don't know, was it his high pitched voice? Was it the long tongue? I don't know. But people
Oh,
didn't like it. Yeah, you could say it was a meme before there were memes of Jar Jar sucks. He's the worst thing,
like I
ever.
said, like I said, Clone Wars
But
gave Jar
I
Jar
don't
more
I
context,
don't
and I mean,
yeah.
I d-
Well, see,
I'm
now there you go. There's a show that was looked like it was for kids, but it was mostly adults talking about it online. Ah,
okay. I also feel like depending on the forum and stuff that we're on, probably kids aren't going to be on there talking about it. Like most of the
yeah.
time that I see people
But it
reminisce about Clone Wars, they're people that are 10 years younger than me now, and they're the ones talking about the
mhm.
prequels and the Clone Wars right now and how awesome it was. And it's really weird because, like I said, my entire time growing up, the prequels have been bashed. So, like,
Yeah.
it's people that are my age or
See,
slightly younger than
I
me.
remember to me it was like the stuff because I never heard anybody saying, "Yeah, Ahmed Best should kill himself for playing Jar Jar." I never heard that.
Oh, it wasn't
Somebody
that.
said that, that's disgusting,
No, it
obviously.
wasn't. It
But
wasn't. He wasn't
but
getting
back in the day,
lambasted.
it was
It was
like
his career fell apart.
his career fell apart. Yeah, that
Yeah, like
makes more sense.
he couldn't get another
The
job.
stuff that
So
I remember hearing that I thought, yeah, and I'm making a different point here. I'm sorry. It's the stuff that I thought was over the top was people who were saying, "Oh, you don't like Episode One? Well, A New Hope wasn't perfect either. There was bad acting in the early Star Wars movies. Oh, CGI looks fake. Well, guess what? The special effects in the Star Wars original trilogy look fake. Like they would just say the same criticism as if I don't know that made sense. Like that was an adequate defense of rather than just saying, "Well, I like the movie because X, Y, Z." It's like they had to attack the source material and they had to attack the people that liked it that way. Like I thought that was, but I mean that's the kind of thing that I saw that was quote unquote controversial back then. Or people said, "Oh, George Lucas, he told us for years he was going to tell this specific story and he gave this certain impression about what the new movies would be like, and then he just kind of threw that up in the air and kind of did something new." So some people were disappointed by that. Maybe they were expecting more of the hints that were dropped in the expanded universe to be used. Like that's the stuff I remember people complaining about and arguing about. Granted, the internet's big, fandom is bigger than the internet, so it's not like I saw everything, but I saw a slice of it at least of that time. And I think it's perfectly fine to make, I don't know, entertainment that's targeted at children that can also be for the young at heart. I love The Wizard of Oz. Is that a movie just for kids? No, it's for kids and the young at heart. So yes, as Bohemius is saying, you can sort of put yourself in the mind of a child and enjoy something. Yes, you can sit down and watch Teletubbies with your toddler and have you enjoy it because they're enjoying it, even though you think you wouldn't watch the show on its own.
right,
But it's a different kind of experience, I guess.
but that once again, that's you choosing to do that, right? That's not where I was coming from was from a business perspective, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so it's not. We're not like
yeah.
making
They're
the
not coming to me and saying, "Are you 5 years old? Well, watch The Acolyte." They're not doing that. They're just saying, "Oh, another Star Wars thing. It's The Acolyte."
one thing is like there's more than just it's more than just like me, you, and like the other adults watching Star Wars, right? It's
Mm,
there's a there are many a clientele of different age groups now watching Star Wars that have their own
for
opinions,
sure. It's
feelings.
big.
Yeah. And I mean like it probably
It's big.
was mildly big even when I was a kid or when you were a kid. What I'm saying is it's how the business does it when you look at it from a
Right.
business perspective. And how the reason I'm explaining it that way is because like a lot of the have a good night, Joe. And I'm gonna bring up your point here right now before you go to bed. Um, for
Thank you.
example, Clone
Yeah, go
Wars,
for it.
Rebels, and
Do it.
Bad Batch are
Do
both
it.
really are all really good from what I've watched, all really good shows. And I feel like those were all originally catered to children, but brought it out as they went on. Um, but the point I
Yeah, and
was
I don't feel
making,
like I'm really adequate to judge because I've only seen like a little bit of one of those shows.
and just the point that I'm was making was we've got um a lot of people in his videos like to isolate a problem with what's going on with like our escapist entertainment. Like when I showed you that, I think it was either Nerbit or somebody else who was talking about the problem
Hmm.
with Star Wars going into the new like the new trilogy and all that stuff, and it ended with the people because they keep buying it. And then like the one that you showed me had a slightly different perspective. But the big thing here is that at the end of the day, I feel like it's really a little bit of everything because a business can't thrive without the people. One, and two, if we can't complain that something's slop if we keep buying the slop and eating it.
Yeah.
And three, if a younger adult grows up
Yes.
with that slop, eating that slop, and does not try the other stuff ahead of them, they are never going to know what a steak tastes like or hamburger. They are going to reminisce on the slop they ate when they were little. Yeah, I liked Andor,
Mhm.
but
Those are awesome points. Because I was going to say something about how the other type of fan that annoyed me back in the day was the one who would say, "Oh, you don't like this particular," and back then it was like this particular Star Wars book, this particular Star Wars game. Well, you're not a true fan. Like, I hate that. Like, they would say you gotta like all of it, or you can't call yourself a fan. Like, they would try to exclude you. Like, I'm a true fan. I appreciate all things Star Wars, and if you could do it back then, which I don't think you could, because it was getting so much that you couldn't read all the books, you couldn't read all the comics, play all the games, and enjoy all the movies and TV shows that were starting to come out. And it's like now it's even bigger. So yes, they're catering to different demographics, age groups, um, preferences, styles, genres. They're trying to make Star Wars bigger and bigger for everyone and everything. And it's like what I hear you saying, and I think I totally agree with it, is if we as old fashioned fans who think that we've got like a handle on like the best of Star Wars, like if we want to win new converts, instead of like trying to bully people into accepting our point of view, like, hey, quit watching that stupid stuff, you idiot. That stuff sucks. Like, you watch the good stuff. Like, just like introduce to them. Like, say, oh, you like this? That's great. Did you see this other
using
thing? Don't you want to see? And if they don't, well, whatever, but they might, like you say, they don't know about that other stuff. They just know the thing they grew up with. They've got some nostalgia for it, understandable, but it's like, oh, compare it to this other thing, see what you think. And maybe their perspective will broaden a little bit. Just like theoretically, they could come out with a new Star Wars thing and you'd be like, this is awesome. This reminds me of the old stuff. I mean, I was ready to say that about The Mandalorian. It didn't quite pan out that way, but I mean, I didn't think it was horrible, but I didn't think it was quite like the savior of Star Wars as some people were saying it was going to be. Maybe up to a certain point, it could have been that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like I said, I don't think anybody's really gonna
Always
bash the
comes
original
back to Star
trilogy,
Wars first.
but
I'll say
I'm
that again.
always
I
I'm
didn't
always
hear it.
thinking that we're gonna be separated by that there's always gonna be people separated by age at some point in time, right? So
Yeah. But I know people that are like 20 years younger than me that like a lot of stuff that I do because they've
well, yeah.
dove into it.
I mean, like I said,
and
man,
and they've introduced me to stuff from my era that I didn't pay attention to. It's like, oh yeah, you saw this old stuff, but did you see this one? It's like, no, I didn't. Try it out. Oh, it's actually awesome.
but once
Can't believe
again,
I missed that.
and this is coming from somebody who, like I said, who prefers to watch older stuff because that's the stuff that I usually enjoy. I don't mind watching like current stuff, but like I will take a day
Yeah.
of watching, I don't know, how Have Gun Will Travel and just chilling out because that's
Can
it's
I
a
say
pastime of mine. What?
you've actually influenced me to want to watch more westerns. Like I've actually rented like westerns and watched them that I never would have even given the time of day because of conversations that we've had. So yeah, see, you can influence people.
They're my guilt.
That Clint
But how
Eastwood,
many
man.
people? How many people? Well, that's not Clint Eastwood. That's and it's too late for me right now.
You're talking about even before.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there's different stages of westerns. I get
that's
that.
Richard
There's the
Boone.
revisionist westerns.
Yeah, Have Gun Will
Richard
Travel is
Boone.
Richard Boone.
Yeah, I wasn't saying he was in that. I'm just saying like, as far as like a genre, westerns were never something I was ever interested in ever.
That
I
James
saw maybe like
Arness
one movie.
is
I've never
Gunsmoke.
seen Gunsmoke. Yeah, I've never seen Gunsmoke. Never seen Wagon Train. I mean, the only thing that if you had said Western to me as a kid, it was The Lone Ranger. Like I knew about The Lone Ranger, the black and white. Like I saw the first 3 episodes because we had those on VHS. That was it. That's all I
They
knew
are.
about it. I hadn't seen any of those movies.
You really got to have an open mind and have to want to just relax when you're watching those because they really are simple. And that's the thing that gets me is like we really try to be very complicated with our storytelling, sometimes so complicated that it's not even complicated at all. It's just a mess. And like
Yeah.
those they tell a story back in the time when like there wasn't computer generated nothing. It was just a set, and it was the story of the hero, and that like I said, I understand the cliche, but and yes, it does get boring after a time. There's always a time and period where I will go back to the hero's journey or coming of age or just the story of the hero solving the problem and winning the day, because really at the end of the day, that's what I want to escape to. If I wanted to escape to world life problems land or real life problems land, I could just wake up and go to work. Like
Well, there is a whole
I
genre of entertainment like that. It's like you watch the Jerry Springer show to go, man, with all my problems, at least I'm not that guy.
yeah, but like no, but and that's what I'm saying is like all
Kinda
the
makes me feel like I need a shower afterwards.
like my wife likes to watch or she used to like to watch those like the crime dramas, and like I sometimes watch
Like
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 those
CSI.
not I don't watch those, but I watch something similar to that, like on YouTube, where like something called Scary Interesting, where it's like true stories of people getting trapped while caving or something like that, like true anxiety stories. It's like really
That's
freaks you out.
freak, yeah.
But
To
like
saw off your own arm or something. Ugh.
um, but they're like if I just want to watch TV, like I'll either watch like a weird comedy, like Always Sunny, or I'm watching something more current. Um, or I'll go and I'll watch something old, like a old Star Trek. I watch TNG, D Space Nine. Um, um, what else? What else have I watched recently that's super? Um, it's my mom used to like this, and I kind of got into it. Little House on the Prairie, Married with Children.
Oh, I remember
Um, what else?
that too.
Yeah, like um, Bonanza, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's
Bonanza.
mhm. So, and like I said, it's not about like going back to those days or anything like that. It's just about the one. I like westerns because just the nicety of that time without having the negatives of that time is nice,
Oh,
but also having
like
the
medieval fantasy. It's like
yeah,
the good parts,
um,
not just dwelling on the bad parts.
but also having the hero's journey and stuff like that really comes into some of that. Little House of Prairie is a little bit dark, but because that had some stories where I don't think it always panned out good, but
No,
um,
it didn't. It had some harsh stuff too.
but yeah,
I
like
didn't watch it regularly, but I kind of remember. Yeah, there was some tough stuff in there.
but yeah, and that is a true story of growing up in that time period. Well, as true as they could get, but yeah,
Yeah,
made me not ever want to be in that time period.
yeah. Well, that's another thing about period stories
Jason
is
Bateman got his start
time
on Little House.
historical
Yeah,
historical stuff is sometimes I feel like they made this just to convince people that they live in the best time. Like,
yeah.
man, you sure are lucky you didn't live back then, even though we've got our problems like every time period does. There's no golden age. Like everything is, you can choose to focus on. Usually that's what you do. You make fiction and you focus on like what you view as the ideals and the good things about some other time period. But it may be the opposite. You focus on like how gritty it was
The
or how
camera stays
how
in
you
one
imagine it
place
being.
instead of being all ADHD like today.
Oh man, the shaky camera ruined
Yeah,
action films. I've said that many times. It's so true.
it's just
It's a good way to
it's
hide
really
bad choreography.
overused. It's really overused.
Yeah.
And that's what
Oh, where
ruins it.
it's like it's or it's not a handheld camera, but they want to make it look like a handheld camera, so they make it like
Yeah.
jiggle around
So they
randomly.
do it with everything, and like for some reason it's because I don't know if it makes it look more real or what, but like I hate the fact that we're trying to incorporate like real camera shake into a movie where they're
Because
trying to tell a story because it doesn't make sense.
you're trying to the movie see, I always thought the movie was trying to put you into the story, like you're there, it's really happening, as opposed to, oh, I'm watching someone recorded a camera of something, you know, like it's a documentary. I'm watching a documentary on TV. It's like, no, I'm there on Battlestar Galactica. Like when I
See,
watched the new Battlestar Galactica, I had to tell myself, don't look at the camera work. Because as soon as I did, I would start getting annoyed by it. Like I'd have to tell myself every episode, like, don't look at it. And
I
so
don't
then it's
mind
just otherwise it's like, oh, it's panning, it's, doing silly stuff.
I don't mind like quick
But
camera
the terror
shots,
was
Joe.
subtle
Like if it's
as
switching
opposed to
between
like, yeah, it's
just
like a fight scene and you can't tell who's punching who because it's just shaking so much.
yeah, or it like Kurgan saying like I don't mind if it's switching between characters to talk. It's when like they're doing the action sequence and like he goes to jump like the character goes jump a fence and they take I don't know 6 shots to do it. So like he goes to
Too
jump
much.
and they switch camera angle, and then he's over the fence and it's another camera angle, and then he's about over the fence, so he's about to land, and then it's a shot of his feet landing on the ground. Then he touches the ground, and it's a shot overhead. So like
The
it's
music
really
video
bad.
phenomena.
Yeah, it's
And what you're describing is a clever way to salvage like the fact that you have terrible footage, like with it, you save it with editing. But yeah, it gets a bit much if you're doing it on purpose that way because you think that looks good, as opposed to that looks better than what you had before. Whereas like he tries to jump over and he can't do it and he falls down and he has to walk around the the thing and then so you're like, okay, well, quick cutting, so it hides all the flaws and mistakes.
how they disguise the stunt man. Yeah,
Yeah. Joe
they did
Koger
a
says there's an episode of Lost in Space that terrified me as a kid. It's where the robot grows really big and the crew goes inside of for whatever reason, the robot starts shrinking back down, almost trapping them inside. That sounds really familiar. I think that type of story's been told before, and it's definitely. But I never saw Lost in Space. I
reminded me
saw
of that
Forbidden
episode of
Planet,
The
but no,
Boys.
they're not the same thing. Boys.
Yeah,
Pacing and rhythm is also
it's really
important for the generations. We like slower
graphic.
stuff because we grew up with it. Yeah, it is. Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I said that. You guys started on Little House.
Yeah, you did. It's true that camera work has advanced. We do have more tech tools to work with. And yes, filmmakers have to kind of get it out of their system. They've got a new technology, they're going to overuse it. Like, we've got lens flares now. Hell yes. Like, they're going to throw that everywhere. And it's like, and except for J.J. Abrams, everybody else moves on. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
the
good.
the
Now
thing
we
is
know
though,
just enough lens flare. We're not going to.
camera shake has been around for so long, and it's still not going away.
Yeah. Well, it's changed, but there's like the bobbing around camera, like from um, Battlestar Galactica, which I can deal with. It's annoying, but I can deal with it. Then there's like I'm trying to think, like the Mission Impossible kind of like shaky, like you can't tell what's like the action is obscured by it. That pissed me off. Made me dizzy. I didn't like it. And then you've got like the Mortal Kombat, like they mess with the frame rate, so it's like they're swinging around, but it's like I don't know, like a strobe effect. It's really weird, but it looks super fake, and it just takes you out of it, and it it hurts the action. What happened to just doing like a martial arts choreographed fight? I mean, I guess it takes more time to do that, to
No, you have
practice
to
it.
be like Tom Cruise in order to get to the top of the Scientology ladder. You have to hang on to an airplane while it's taking off and do all of your stunts live. Just saying.
There it is. Yeah. So this has been a great discussion. I didn't think we'd go on another hour, but I guess after all the weird technological issues at the start, we had to come full circle to talking about
Had to
Tom
keep
Cruise.
going.
Yeah. Now we're talking about Tom Cruise, but why would you do that? You're a jerk.
Oh my god.
Don't run away. You think that's funny? You can just like talk about him like that? You're a
Just
jerk.
squirting water on me? Well, you're a jerk.
Yeah. I just thought it was
Yeah,
a
dude,
joke.
he
Well, it's not funny.
like I said, Tom Cruise is one of those guys that like I enjoy his film, but
He had so many
he
comebacks.
really creeps me out as a human being. So
Like when he had that meltdown on the set and he was like yelling at everybody during COVID.
well, yeah, well
I
that
don't
and
even
the
remember
fact that he
half
was trying to get people to wear masks, but nah, it's not just that, it's just the fact that like every time he's in an interview or he's talking to somebody, he's just like Patrick Bateman happy. And it's like he's very like his presentation is his bread and butter. And when people are that
Yeah,
like perfect,
intense.
you wonder what's going on behind the scenes, especially with somebody who's into that weird
You don't believe him.
religious like cult thing. Sorry for anybody who's a Scientologist. But
Yeah.
if you're
I try to stay out of it, but I
there are
mean,
things I'd
yeah,
rather be spending my
it's
money
hard to
on.
ignore.
And Like
Yeah.
he is literally referenced as like
Well,
almost like the chosen one to those people. So like it's really creepy.
a
And
lot of a lot of celebrities get into it, but after they learn about it, they do, maybe that's not for me. But he
yeah,
stayed in
because
it, and he's big
all you're
into it.
doing
So
is throwing money at him, and then you climb the next stage once you throw enough money at them. And he's like premium tier to those guys because
I,
of how much money he's
I
invested.
think there's I haven't heard about him in a long time, but I think there's some open source Scientologists out there where they're just like, nah, you can just have the stuff for free. Here you go.
Yeah,
Like, you like it, there it is. They're not part of the mainstream group, but
I really
uh,
was headed, but now
well,
I'm
should we
not
look
so
at a couple
sure.
comments and then I'm
Well, we're about ready to
get
call
out.
it anyway, Joe. But
We're gonna be
yeah.
US
Does
USA up all night.
since we don't have a guest,
Both actors
um,
would be in the same shot, not having the camera change. Yeah. Well,
since
yeah, was it the camera obscura? Like it, you cut from one person, you cut to the other. Obviously, the camera is looking at one person, it's looking at the other, but they do it in such a way that you just imagine the camera isn't there. It's an illusion that they do on purpose to try to immerse you in the shot more, or like the camera pans around the whole person. But yeah, when they shake the camera, it's either like, well, I'm shaking because I'm in the fight, maybe, or it's making the camera obvious by, yeah, shaking the view, showing lens flares in the screen, like all this kind of stuff. So it's like different techniques, different philosophies of filmmaking. Am I trying to put you into the story, or am I going to just make you an observer, like reinforce the idea that you're an observer? Like which is better for the experience? I don't know. Probably depends on the movie.
wait, before
Yeah.
we end tonight, anybody else does anybbe else have any final comments in regards to our topics tonight, or in regards to what we just discussed?
So Wonder Woman's stunt man was a man, baby.
Man,
Yep.
baby.
I never, yeah, I never saw the Linda Carter Wonder Woman. I know she was iconic in that role. I just have seen the clip where she spins around. That's it. So in the theme
Lasso of
song.
truth. A couple more seconds here.
Just
Just allow people to put in their
yeah.
comments if they have anything.
Mission Impossible. I've seen the first two, and it was hard after the second one to even come back to the franchise. But I'm told it got better.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's a really
I
funny.
liked a lot of them.
I'm Keenan Ivory Wayne's in I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka, where his mom like goes to like beat up the guys that are attacking her son, and it's obviously like a guy with a wig on,
Oh my god.
and then it just
Okay.
like cuts, and she's like, "Yep, took care of those guys, like beat them up." It's like, "Mom, why you gotta fight for me?"
All right. Well, with that, call it.
You know,
So,
and this is CyberSound music to play us out.
So, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight on the RantCast Podcast. Once again, my name is Josh. I'm also known as the Strange Bus. You can find me streaming every once in a while on twitch.tv/the Strange Bus. I'm joined by my other host here, that's Kurgan, also known as HeroQuest Fans. You can find him at twitch.tv/HeroQuest Fans. That is twitch.tv/HeroQuest Fans. Also on YouTube at XSC3, home of HeroQuest Fans.
Yep.
And the music that you will be listening to here is provided by CyberSound Music. All rights go to Aim to Head, and you can find them at CyberSound Music on YouTube. Just search CyberSound Music.
Yep. And we've also got Discord too.
We do have Discord.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
All the Discords.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Yes. I hope you all have a great night. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you guys next time on the next RantCast Podcast.
RantCast.